going to be interviewing the lead creation dev here in this video. This is a long video, so hopefully you guys plan on sticking around for a while. I don't know if there'll be a lot of color commentary needed to be done, but let's see. I don't think WoW will die. It'll have a huge fan base regardless of how Blizzard sucks. Alex says, I really hate this term WoW killer. Like, this claim completely misses the point. If you ask me, all the WoW players can keep playing WoW. I just want the new MMO to be good. Exactly. And that's, I think, the other thing, too, is I don't think we really want a game to kill World of Warcraft. Because, like, this game here looks like it's going to be a bit of a hardcore mode, right? And the problem with a game, being the WoW killer means all of the people that eventually went to World of Warcraft and begged and cried and whined for Warcraft to become easy mode are going to move over to this game. And it's like, no, let them stay with Blizzard. Let them keep paying their money to Blizzard to play an easy mode RPG, and let a serious, I would say, a more authentic RPG come around that is going to be challenging to players, especially those of us that have been playing RPGs for a very, very, very long time. I was in the WoW beta. And I played WoW for a good 10 years straight until I just finally started getting bored. I mean, really, after Wrath of the Lich King, it just changed. Like, Mists of Pandaria was kind of cool. I mean, the pandas were nice. In no way, shape, or form really fit with the lore. I mean, I have a bunch of WoW novels, the WoW books, and it was almost like an intermission. Right? It was like, okay, we've basically caught up to Warcraft 3, with the Lich King thing, with Northrend and whatever from the strategy, right? The real time RTS version, and even up to that point, the game was starting to feel like progressing was pretty simple, right? Like, getting a mount was a little more difficult, which was nice. I like that. It was a challenge, but the flying mount. But otherwise, it's kind of like this game just keeps getting a little. And then Pandaria was really easy. And then, yeah, I think I have Legion. I think was the last expansion I bought, and I have like all of the collector's editions up to Legion, I think, or whatever, or whatever Astaroth, whatever it was. And then I think the last expansion or the last two, I think they were digital only. I don't even think I seen a collector's edition in the stores. And I haven't played any of them. I just watched the videos online. Anyways, I'm going to grab myself a drink, and I will be right back. If you don't have one of these, it's actually really handy. I got one for my birthday. And I think it lasted about 2 months, just over, before we ran out of the CO2 in it. And I like my pop. And it's a lot less sugar than a pop. Like, it's about a liter, and it's probably half the sugar that you get out of a 1 liter pop, which is good because I need to be slimming, not growing breasticles. Okay, what do we have here? It's almost like WoW Killer makes an MMO a substitute for it. Exactly. Why would anybody want that? Obviously, you want something that's different from WoW. Otherwise, you would just play WoW. From Alex Hens says, it's just people are so desperate for a new MMO because of what Blizzard did to them. They hate it because it's the only good MMO available, and that is sad. Well, no, there's other MMOs. Like I said before, there's EVE Online. Star Citizen, which will be in development purgatory forever. I mean, I have $1,300 wrapped up into Star Citizen, and I regret spending at least 1,000 of it because I do have a couple of nice mouse pads and some patches and stuff like that. But I spent far too much money on that game, expecting it to come out 3 years ago. It was supposed to come out 4 years ago. And yeah, I mean, I agree with the WoW killer thinking it's going to be a game that's going to replace World of Warcraft. Nothing will ever replace World of Warcraft. It holds a very uh, specific niche in the market. What Blizzard has done exceptionally well, and this is something that has really prevented a lot of decent MMOs from really getting a foothold in anything, is because Blizzard is so big and it already has a game that is fleshed out and working. When a new MMO is coming out on the market, and that new MMO says we're going to do XYZ that's unique from any other game out there. Blizzard looks at that and then it says, how can we make something like that work in our game? So everything that people are waiting for, that are anticipating in a not yet released MMO, Blizzard gets the jump on it and they create a light version of whatever that anticipatory thing is. And if those people are already playing WoW at that time that new feature is added, then they continue to play WoW. And then when that new MMO comes out, they go, well, WoW already has that. Even though what that new MMO was really doing was very different, very unique, and in some cases completely different from what Blizzard has done. Blizzard still says we've already done it, or we've done it better. When in some cases they've done nothing and they've actually hurt their game. But it keeps players in. Exactly, it keeps players in. Are not even WoW players, just people trying to bash the game to show how superior they are. Well, I mean, like I said, I played World of Warcraft for 10 years straight, and like I played it like a job. Oh man, I put so many hours into that game. And then, like I said, up until I think the very like the last time I played WoW is when they released Classic. I played Classic for 3 months, and then I was done. I just I that was Classic was fun. I really loved Classic. I got the 3 month membership. I played it for 3 months, and then when my subscription was expiring, I was like, I'm almost max level. I think I'm in the 50s, and I just thought to myself, there is nothing else. This game will never get better than it is right now with the Classic. Because if they re-release even um, the second expansion, I mean, it was garbage anyways when it was released. Outlands there, um, it's still not going to be the same as Classic was. So I just decided I'm done with WoW. Leave on a high note. Leave with the good memories of Classic. And yeah, now I watch WoW. I'll watch all the cutscenes and stuff like that. I try to follow the story a little bit, and it's pretty interesting. But yeah, WoW does a lot of stealing ideas and not breaking copyright. Like how they are able to steal some of the ideas that they do and not break anybody's copyright is beyond me. But again, it comes down to um, Blizzard just has an insane amount of money. Who's suing Blizzard? They'll just run another company out in court. So, anyways, let's get on to the interview. The WoW killer. So even Azmon says here, the WoW killer? No, it's not going to kill WoW. I don't want this to kill WoW. I do not want Ashes of Creation to kill WoW. I want Ashes of Creation to take, from what I've seen, I want it to take the fun, positive, mature MMO fans and players out there and bring them into a new community. And WoW can keep all the toxicity, because let's face it, WoW's become rather toxic. I mean, it's a huge company. I guess they have the people to make sure they can't get punished for stealing ideas. Yeah, exactly. Anyways, here we go.
Dude, if this game comes out with everything that's been promised and it's polished, WoW's done.
All right, here we go, boys. Yeah, okay, man.
How's my sound quality, by the way? I'm on my phone driving to Vegas, and I'm like in the middle of the desert.
Surprisingly better than most streamers who make it a career to have their sound quality be pretty good.
That's true.
Well, I wanted to say thank you very much for coming on and talking to us about this. I mean, I think we all really appreciate it. I mean, like I heard a little bit of your story about how you were kind of an MMO player who's been, you know, as many of us, a little bit, maybe felt a little bit neglected, and you thought about going your own way. And so,
I mean, let's face it, Azmon probably has enough money. He could probably fund his own MMO, really. I mean, the guy's probably not suffering too bad. You know, I mean, I've had some of the highest numbers I've had in here for, you know, in probably a year or two, and just today alone. And I'm sure he starts his stream with 5 times the people that I have here.
this is something you've been working on. How long have you been working on the project for?
So, yeah, actually, you know,
Important question.
I started my first MMORPG as a kid at 7 years old when it was like 1992, $6 by the hour to play on AOL. It was Neverwinter, the first Neverwinter.
Oh boy.
And
yeah.
Since then, you know, I played pretty much every MMO out of the box. And, you know, the story for Intrepid and Ashes of Creation really stemmed from my last MMO that I was playing pretty heavily, which was Arcade, about 6 years ago. About 6 years ago.
You know, I was just thinking, this is a bit of like Inception, because isn't Azmon the one that's typically reacting to videos? So technically, I'm reacting to Azmon reacting. It's Azception right now. Welcome to Azception with Beck Altar. Boom, boom, boom.
And I really loved that game. Like, I felt it had a lot of great potential, and I just got really fed up and upset with, you know, some of the design decisions. And let me know if I'm cutting out.
And Neverwinter was a fun game.
It'll probably be off and on. It'll be all right.
Yeah, some of the design decisions really just kind of ticked me off. And you know, I had a very large guild in that game, and I've had a large guild since I was one of my favorite MMOs I played back in like 2003. For
Ladies, he's got a large guild.
A lot of inspiration I have for Ashes comes from like Lineage 2, Arcade.
A lot of people brought that up, actually.
Yeah, I know. I'm stealing from heels.
I thought Lineage 2 was a great game. I really like non-faction based games that
never played Lineage.
Kind of the
played Neverwinter.
Player agency to determine your friends and foes to the player. So essentially, you know, I was in San Diego, and San Diego's a great hotbed for developers. You know, we have a lot of studios around us. We had Sony Online Entertainment, which became Daybreak. We had, you know, Blizzard in Irvine. We had, you know, Amazon Game Studio and stuff. So, you know, I'm a pretty big tabletop gamer as well. I love playing like Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40K, and a lot of the guys.
Oh, I'm at the very start of the vid. We're at 2 minutes and 42 seconds. I think you're talking the pre-alpha 4K GM gameplay plus read video description before watching bit up here, probably. The one thing I've always wondered when it comes to Azmongold, like, does he have like a special idle timer? Because for how often he's just in the city and doesn't get auto logged out during his videos, which sometimes are quite long. I know I could never get away with that. It's like 5 minutes. Boom, you're like logged out. It's like, oh, damn it. You got to log back in again. He must have some crazy timer. I digress.
From Sony would play at my game shop. And,
really?
You know, I was
cool.
I was retired at like 29, and when I was fed up with Arcade, and I said to these guys, I was like, hey, what do you think about making an MMORPG? Like, I'll fund it. Let's try to hire a bunch of people and see what we can do. So, you know, we started like 2015, 2016, kind of white papering out all of the designs that I had for Ashes, you know, all the different systems that exist. And about 2017, we went to Kickstarter, not really as a means for funding. You know, I'm personally funding the entire project, but actually to, you know, add some additional features, but also.
Oh, see, now if I knew there was a Kickstarter, I would have been in on this. I got in on the Kickstarter of Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen. Ultimately, I got all my money back from it because it became an abortion. And actually, know some of the devs from that one. I've been friends with the Tony Garcia, Iron Toe, for quite some time because he also was the lore god for Defiance, and in Defiance, I ran KTAM Radio. So if anybody remembers Defiance when that came out, yeah, I am the Beck Altar from KTAM Radio, and I've always kind of wanted to find another game where I can bring online radio with a story element, and I don't know if I could do it with Ashes of Creation, but yeah, like Kickstarter's not too bad. I've lost, I think, almost as much money on Kickstarters that went nowhere, like produced to nothing. Like there's this Sabertron foam sword thing that's supposed to have scores and stuff on it. Yeah, money that's like $500 gone, right? I'm in Canada, so it's like $350 American, and that's why, like, when you go to the store here, this is $375, but in my money, that's probably closer to $450. So if I got this thing, I mean, that's a good chunk of change. But I'm tempted. We'll see if this video convinces me. And some of you guys are making some really good arguments in the chat here as well, for why it might not be a bad idea to get in on this game.
Mainly to get a litmus test on what the community thinks about many of our designs.
To see if there's a demand.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's essentially to test.
Yeah. Kickstarter's been used for a lot of questionable things, a lot of questionable scams, because of their rules and stuff. In that, when you pledge to a Kickstarter, there's no guarantee that'll ever come to fruition. But it also needs to have something in there where the people that are working on a project can't just take your money and go on a very nice vacation somewhere warm with palm trees and not actually try or attempt to produce anything. One game that I'm kind of sad in how they've been treated is Wingman with Descent Underground. Their little project, because Wingman, I don't know how well you guys are in the whole Star Citizen thingy, whatever, but there's Wingman's hangar and whatnot, and I got to know Wingman quite well, interviewed him a couple of times, and some of the other devs, and and they unfortunately have just been completely fucked by the company. I think it's Little Orbit or something like that. They were supposed to be producing or the game or something, or distributing or whatever. Completely fucked them. Right? I mean, it's an awesome game. I was playing it until they took it down. It's a lot of fun. Better with a controller. It's not so good with mouse and keyboard, because it's 6 degrees of movement, right? Up, down, left, right. I mean, it's crazy. It's the action. It's just crazy. But it's a ton of fun. It's a great arcade shooter, and they are like this close to releasing the game, and they got completely screwed. And it makes me mad because it happened to very good people, very honest people who had a passion for a game. And I mean, I got in on the Kickstarter on that thing. I mean, I don't even run KTAM. Like KTAM, we shut down because Tryon Worlds sold, and some other company took it, and the game's basically it's idling, right? Defiance is idling. So after 5 years, they just shut KTAM Radio down. But I was going to actually have KTAM in that game. I was going to have our logo, because I paid to get our logo in there and everything. And I mean, am I ever going to see my Kickstarter rewards for that game? Probably not. I think this game will be great for sure. As I said at the beginning, I'm just a bit concerned about how long it's going to take until release. And hopefully we'll get some answers in this interview about that, because the previous guy said he was estimating 2 years. I would imagine Azmon will ask him at some time what the estimated release date is, or at least what their roadmap looks like to release. And I'm like I said, I would say, from my knowledge of games and the beta testings and alpha testings that I've done, and I'm a relative nobody. I don't really throw myself out there. I'm starting to do more streaming and whatnot now. That's why I have, I don't know, 1,100 followers and nothing to really show for it. But I've been around the gaming industry for quite a long time, and got to know a lot of people and understand how things go. Like I had Brad McQuaid on. It's a shame to hear that he died a couple of years ago. Anyways, but they are 5 years into this game, and a lot of big people backing this game. I think it's the game we have been waiting for. And yeah, I mean, the average MMO takes. Oh, thank you very much, Tony. The average MMO takes between 5 and 10 years. Depending on the size of your studio and stuff like that. But really 5 to 7, 5 to 8 seems to be average for a slow build, right? Like, and I only say 5 to 10 years because Star Citizen is still dragging its ass. And in Star Citizen is what's dragging that average out into the universe, whereas it used to be 4 to 6 years was what it would take to get a half decent MMO out. Now we're really, if you take Star Citizen out of the equation, you're probably still sitting at 5 to 7 years to get a really decent MMO to market. And if they've got 5 years into this game already, and they're in Alpha 1, I'm thinking an early release within, I would say, about a year, 2 at the most, and that's only if they do like Blizzard quality bug chasing, right? Like Blizzard, there's one thing Blizzard used to be really good at. They did not release a game that was bugged. You look like what Square Enix does, and the red guys there, they don't release games until they are absolutely sure that it is going to be very high quality upon release. Whereas how many MMOs have come out in the last few years that I swear they were still developing the game while it was in full release. Like, it just, that's not how you should do it. And I think that lost a lot of faith in the gaming community, right? Because we're thinking, oh, all of these games are coming out, they look awesome, and then you get in the game and they're just riddled with bugs, and you're getting, releases and updates that are almost as big as the game itself, trying to patch all of this stuff. Anyways,
that's this design theory, because as you know, and a lot of MMO players know, there's been this kind of a paradigm shift towards a mentality of everybody's a winner, and there's no longer a risk versus reward type of design philosophy. And
yes, we've heard of that.
And I can't stand that. I mean, it makes me, it really undermines what the genre was meant to be. And that doesn't go to say that there shouldn't be systems that are made for casual players and systems that are made for hardcore players. You should have a diversity of progression paths. But I really got upset with that. So we wanted to make sure that these ideas resonated with the MMORPG genre. And that's, what we did with Kickstarter was very successful. And that's when we started to really ramp up in the number of developers and the size of the studio, and really started making significant progress in production. So we've been in production now for about 3 years, ever since Kickstarter.
So that problem is because of stakeholders that push the project to be shipped early. 100%. Absolutely 100%. And the thing is the stakeholders are not gamers. They are people who don't care about games. They are people that are only looking at the money. And for whatever reason, they're not thinking, I mean, really, what's another year, right? So you have a game. So you go to so you have a game idea. And so you go to a production studio and you say, hey, I got this idea for a game. I would like to license my idea to you guys to develop the game. And then you find a distributor publisher to get the game out there. And you find a marketing group that does all that. And so you get the design studio or whatever to look at your idea and what you want to do, your roadmap, whatever, right? Because you're the producer. And then they estimate, well, this should take roughly 5 years. And then you go to find investors, right? You go to these people and you say, well, we're estimating development of this game should be about 5 years, give or take. And what the investor hears is 5 years it's on the market, not the give or take part. And so, 5 years comes around and the investors are going, okay, we want this thing on the market because we want to get a return on our money. And the developer goes, okay, we're at 5 years. We're in the give or take portion. We're going to need another year and another whatever. And you're right. I think a lot of that forces these games out before they're ready. And the one thing, and this is what I'm going to get to, is where this guy is self-funding this game. So he controls that, right? Like he's clearly he's got a job or whatever he does that has earned him a lot of money. So he obviously understands how investment works. And he obviously understands time scales and returns and stuff like that. I'm going to guess he's done his market research as well. So I think what makes this game a little different from a lot of those other ones is he can sit back and say, we're at the 5 year mark. We're in the give or take portion right now. And he's doing the right thing, right? Like, look at what's happening today. How many brand new people who've never heard of this game before are now going, this looks pretty cool. This is damn sexy, right? Like this, I want this. This, when I think of a game, this is really pushing me in the right direction, right? Like when I think of what would the best MMO be, this is pretty damn close, right? And so this is going to get a whole lot more interest. This is going to get a whole lot more investment because, well, like I said, this is $375. 10 people buy that, and that's $3,700. If 100 people buy this, that's $37,000, right? And you can bet you get enough interest. This, you could easily sell 1,000 of these, right? Easily, you could sell 1,000 of these. So, if he's put in 30 million and he's raised 10 million from supporters, he could be making hundreds of thousands just through this store alone, right? With all of these different packs and stuff like that. He could easily make a $500,000 selling this stuff. Okay. Very, very easily, he could be making another $500,000. Money clearly is not an issue. And if he's making this kind of game with $40 million, damn, this guy knows how to spend his money. And I think that's another problem that a lot of studios have is because it's not their money, I think they fritter the money away. And I think that's what's happened with Star Citizen, right? Because Star Citizen is like 100%, well, I think it's 99.99% funded from the community, right? I think about that much. I think they put like $2 million of their own money, of his own money in. I've heard he put $20 million in of his own money, which, okay, great. He put $20 million in. The games cost him $300 million at this point. I wouldn't be surprised. So this guy is using his money smart. Let's see. This game developer talks like a real gamer. He's not all about the money. He has a passion. This gives me hope. And I think that also contributes to money being spent effectively, right? He's probably not spending money on bells and whistles that don't matter right now, right? He's probably got, he's got this list of what does he want in the game, and then he's got this list of what he hopes to get in the game, and this list is probably tagged DLC/expansion, and this is release list, right? So, I know, tissues. We use props on this channel sometimes. and that's smart, right? Because what this is, this is good marketing, right? I mean, I'm in sales and marketing, a lot of what I do. So what this is doing is, okay, so there's been people excited for this game for up to 5 years, right? So we'll say we're at the 5-year anniversary now. So for up to 5 years, he's had a growing community of people that were really excited and then became committed. And you're going to have some of those people that fall off. You're going to have some of those people that go, I think I'm going to play this thing over here. So what this is going to do is this is going to bring in a bunch of fresh blood, a bunch of new money, and a bunch of excitement, right? So you're going to have those people who've been sticking around for all of these years are going to see people like me come into the community, and I'm going to come in, I'm going to be excited. Man, this game looks really cool. And then the people that have been around for a long time, what they're going to do is they're going to see my enthusiasm, and I'm going to talk about an aspect of the game, and then they're going to get excited and be like, oh man, dude, 3 years ago when they first introduced this, I thought it was going to be a shit show, but man, they've done so well with this, and they're still, and then we us new blood people reinvigorate the community that's already been there for a long time, and it just kind of becomes a dog pile of just of more excitement. And of course, it's like a crowd cheering at a sporting event. The developers are the players, and the developers hear our excitement and they get excited, and they've been plodding along, tick 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 tick, for 5 years. They're going, oh man, when is this going to end? And they've been dealing with the same game mechanic for months. And then again, we come in as new people and we start talking about this mechanic, and then that developer goes, oh yeah, well, I want to do this to make this even better. And we go, oh my God, that's awesome. And it reinvigorates the player, right? It reinvigorates the developer, and then their tick 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 goes, and then it builds up everything. And that is really good for a game, especially when you get near the end of development, because that's really where the nerves kick in. Is this game going to do what we want it to do? Is this game going to work? And of course, you're always going to have that very small portion of the gaming community. The game comes out and it's not what they envisioned in their head. They have so many preconceived notions that they're like, oh man, this game sucks. And then the rest of us are like, dudes, like you nailed it. Wow, magnifique. This is the game of games. And to us, it becomes our new hobby, right? It for some of us, we'll play it like a job, we'll play it like a career, and for a few people, they'll try and make money off it, right? Like guys like Azmon, who have a big enough audience, he can stream this game and make a living off it. People like myself, who knows, right? I do what the best that I can, and I'm learning as a streamer, because I haven't really tried really streaming until basically the COVID thing, like 1,000 other people. So whether or not I'm successful at streaming is only going to tell over time, as the COVID thing kind of fades away and restrictions get released and other streamers go back to work, and other streamers who've managed to find some successes doing this stick around, and however much we can maintain our audiences. Let's see, what else do we have? That Wildcard did that with Ark. That's because he is a real gamer that has played MMOs since the AOL days. Yeah, he did achieve that amount of wealth. So yeah, that gives you an idea who this guy is and how he works. He knows what and when to do it. Valorant is one of them games made your hype, but didn't live up to it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's been a few games that well, there's what was it? Firestar or something like that. I played it for a while. It was okay, but it got boring pretty quick. Graphically, it was phenomenal. It wicked nice graphics, really smooth, but the gameplay was okay. I just found that the game itself just seemed to be lacking. I'm a story guy. I love the lore. I love the story. That's what I get into. I don't quite I don't quite role play unless I'm doing like an online radio or something like that. But I do like a good world that I feel like I can lose myself in, because the whole idea of video games is to escape the real world. All the BS that's going on, politics and COVID and whatever else is going on out there. I should be able to log into a game and lose myself. And for those hours that I am in that world, that is my world. And the more I feel like I can live in that world for that short period of time, the more fun I'm going to have. Anyways, let's continue on.
And we have over 65 developers that are here in San Diego, with some that are outside.
65 developers, that's good.
In the
that's
world,
a good
and then we're
team.
ramping up right now. We just launched another hiring phase with 24 positions available at the studio that we're promoting.
So whenever you're talking about the Kickstarter and the kind of feedback that you guys have gotten, is there any specific feature in the game that was actually kind of thought of by people in the Kickstarter, or are these just kind of all ideas that you've come up with and just different people have enabled them to happen?
Yeah, there really wasn't ideas that we took, so to speak, from a system or mechanic standpoint from Kickstarter. All of these designs are, essentially designs that I created as kind of inspiration from the many MMORPGs that I played in the past, each of which, contains some, reference to maybe a system that is in Ashes that I thought did well. And I just thought, why not combine all of these systems together into a game that represents a wide array of player ability to kind of focus in the direction and progress in a direction that they want.
Like Blizzard on crack, dude.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's something that we're obviously we still,
providing a truly PBX kind of experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I was really kind of excited to see, and this is something that I really liked about Classic WoW, for example, is that you had people who basically their end game was doing professions, and with BDO you had kind of the same thing where you had players that were PvPers and PvEers, and then you also had people that were working inside of the community of the game, kind of carving out their own gameplay experience. And I feel like professions are playing a very big role in Ashes of Creation. Am I kind of right about that? I've seen a lot of stuff about it.
Yeah, so the profession system is intrinsically tied to what is called our artisanship system. So
we're a little behind.
The artisanship system really contains 3 branches of focus. Okay, gathering, processing, and crafting, essentially. The gathering is focused really around the blacksmithing profession, your ability to craft tools that essentially better your ability to collect raw resources in the world to harvest them. They grant you access.
So if you're an alchemist, does that mean you start with if you're a herbalist as your trade skill, does that mean you start with like a rusty pair of tweezers? You can like pluck the plant out of the ground, and then you work into a rusty pair of scissors, and eventually you get into the big garden shears, because she can take down the whole bush.
To higher grade resources, they increase the chances of proccing rare materials rare resources out of the harvesting nodes. And then the processing is based kind of around your freehold system, with essentially establishing the infrastructure for processing those things on your freehold parcel. And that's like building blueprints of smelters or of stables for the animal husbandry profession, that kind of thing.
It's kind of like middle professions.
Right, exactly. And once you process those raw gatherables into craftable materials, that's when the crafters come online, and their main focus is to acquire recipes. There are limited uses to recipes the more rare the recipe is, and that's tied intrinsically into node progression. So as nodes get higher stages, it unlocks crafting stations that can be constructed so that the crafters who get their processed goods from the processors who get their raw materials from the gatherers are able to complete a finished product.
So there's it's an assembly line, effectively.
It's an ecosystem.
Right, exactly. The key to making a successful crafting system is including interdependencies that exist within the system that people are required to excel and progress in order to facilitate that assembly line.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that's one of the best things about the game. It's one of the things that I've kind of disliked about WoW is the fact that people can kind of do everything all by themselves. But how many professions can you have? You can only be an artisan in one profession at a time, is that right?
So as you progress in one of the three branches of the
Oh, that's a
artisanship
pretty
system
flying mount.
with your gathering, processing, or crafting abilities, it unlocks access to certain professions that then you have a secondary progression path in based off of your performance in creating that profession's specialty. So think of it like a tree. The higher you go up the tree, the taller the branches that you have access to. Those branches are essentially the professions.
Okay, that makes sense. And so I did see one element of it that I was a little bit, I'm actually curious about how you're going to be able to balance this, and that the profession gear is going to be equivalent to the raiding gear.
Right. So essentially, the crafted gear is going to be on par with what legendary drops will be. And the way you kind of accomplish that is, the drop tables that exist for world bosses or dungeon bosses, they have a RNG chance of dropping completed items.
Yeah.
Complete, totally finished items. However, they have a higher chance of dropping material components that are necessary and unique recipes that are necessary in crafting those on par gear. So
I
the
see.
idea,
Okay.
yeah. So the idea is, as you're completing this content, you're not only fueling the opportunity through the drop table system to acquire completed boss gear, but you're also adding additional materials that go into supplying the master artisans with the ability to craft this gear as well.
Did you ever play Classic WoW?
Yeah, I played Classic WoW.
Onyxia Scale Cloak? Is that it?
I really honestly didn't get into WoW too much.
Okay.
And the reason why is because WoW launched around the same time as Lineage 2. And, I really just wasn't a huge fan of the faction-based system. Oftentimes I found myself disliking my own faction more than I disliked the enemy faction I was told to fight.
Yeah, I can relate.
I kind of, felt in Lineage there was an opportunity there to have more guild-driven politics, more player-driven interactions, and I kind of got hooked on Lineage in that regard, so I didn't play WoW a lot.
No, I can understand that. I think that the same dynamic happened in Black Desert, and I can totally understand it. It was really fun in there too. So, like for example, with the profession gear, let's say you kill a dragon, and the dragon can drop a dragon tooth, but you can also get dragon scales from the dragon, and you use the dragon scales to craft like a shield or something.
Absolutely correct. So there's going to be multiple material components that are capable of being dropped from each world boss and or dungeon boss, and those components will relate to a specific type of craftable gear.
Okay, and that's where the high-level craftable gear comes from. And these high-level bosses and these like world bosses and everything, these are all in instance content, the highest level
so
ones?
Not all of them. There are some that are more story-related that get instanced, but 80% of the content that will exist in Ashes of Creation is open world, and there's a specific reason for that. So because of the way that friendships and or enemies are forged in the game, and people have the opportunity to create their own friends or foes, we want that to play out from a contesting standpoint as well. So a lot of these hunting grounds or raid bosses that people are going to have opportunities to kill, they're going to be essentially contested potentially by your enemies that you've created in the game, or you can work together to create alliances in order to defend those contested zones.
Oh yeah, we have that now in Classic WoW. It's very very drama driven, but it's also very social. It is extremely social, and that's a big positive.
Absolutely. I mean, the social component of what MMORPGs as a genre are supposed to be have kind of been lost over the years, in my opinion, over the past decade, as many of the designs are more related to essentially creating these safe spaces for players, which don't create a lot of soft friction. And I don't like the idea of that. I think soft friction is an important component of making people emotionally invested in the outcome of events in games. That's an important part of why we play games. And some of the best experiences that I've had as an MMORPG gamer have been not related around the curated content by the designers, but instead by the unpredictable player-driven encounters that nobody could have predicted. Like I remember in ArcAge, I had a great time. My guild was fighting almost the entire server, and we had literally, and I'm not exaggerating here, we had a 24 straight hour fight where I went to bed in the middle of the fight for like 3 hours, and I got back up and got back into the command chair. And it was all over the Kraken raid boss that the server was trying to prevent us from doing. And that, I mean, those types of events live with you. I mean, yes, they're gated around the content, but they're player driven events.
So I guess probably that experience is what caused you to have the sieges be at dedicated times during the day.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah.
it's important that, for players, we work hard so that we can have the free time to come and enjoy, what we like with MMORPGs. And it kind of sucks if, somebody can sneak in a Castle Siege at 2 a.m. in the morning and,
Yeah.
you're not up and your friends are up. And that's a really shitty experience. So, the way we're going to structure the server shards is essentially when you
kinda
come into the
cheap,
game,
too.
you're going to have a time zone that's appropriate next to your server that you choose. And that's going to reflect essentially the windows in which some of these key systems can operate. So, like, say, for example, you want to declare a siege against a node, you'll complete that quest to get the siege scroll. When you get that siege scroll, the applicable time that you can declare the siege will be between, 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern time if you're an Eastern server.
Right, yeah. Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's probably the smartest and best way to do it for
It's
the
balanced.
same reasons that you mentioned.
And I think
too.
it's more fun.
So
Yeah.
whenever you're talking about like this PvE content, like what's kind of the difficulty level of that content, and how will is the game meant to be like with World of Warcraft nowadays? There's a heavy emphasis on like content that's very challenging and very hard. Is that something that you're really
We are
looking
not
to
talking about the
emulate
same
in
WoW.
Ashes of Creation,
WoW
or is
is
it just going
not
to be
hard.
mainly a social experience with difficulty that's kind of created primarily through the friction of other players?
Well, I think so. 100%. Our objective on the PvE front is to create encounters that have varying degrees of difficulty that are determined by your performance as a raid or group. So essentially, as you're progressing through, let's say, a raid environment, a dungeon, and you're beating the first and second and third boss before you get to the final boss, your performance at those stages will dictate the AI's performance against you at each subsequent phase. That's kind of the idea behind the varying difficulties. Now, based on your performance and the varying degrees of difficulty will also influence the drop tables that are used when you complete that content as well. So the better you do, the better opportunity you'll have from a gear and drop standpoint also. Now, that's super important because one of the primary driving forces that I've experienced as a gamer in MMORPGs is that gear chase. And the reason people have a gear chase comes down to performance, essentially, right?
Yes.
And that performance can either be dictated by your PvP experiences, whether that be castle sieges or group PvP, whatever, or it's dictated by the ability and drive for you to complete content at a degree in which you have to get the benefits that you want, right? So we want to make sure that there is difficulty that's reflective of the desire to get best in slot items, and that's a very important component.
So, like, for example, let's say you do the first boss, and if you kill the first boss within 30 seconds, then the second boss gains more health and it drops better gear. And if you kill the second boss within 30 seconds, then the third boss is even stronger. Is that kind
right?
of
So
okay?
That's a very simplistic way to look at it. I would say that is accurate to a principle standpoint, but really what happens is our bosses have specific AI behavior trees and blackboards that they use in order to determine the types of skills that they're going to show during an encounter, the type of thresholds on their health pool that instigate either rage mechanics or different types of environmental hazards and strategies that become online. All of those things are kind of predicated in an overarching AI manager for an encounter. Like, let's say that dungeon where you described, hey, I killed the first boss in X amount of time. Now the second boss is AI behavior tree number 3 on the scale, or number 5. It kind of increases in that.
So it's dynamic difficulty in that way.
Exactly.
Okay, and does it also scale with the amount of players? So, like, for example, if you go in there with, I think the numbers were 8, 16, and 40, are you encountering the same bosses at 8 players as you are with 40, or are there certain bits of content in the world that are exclusive basically for large groups like 40 and above?
So we're not going to be incorporating scaling into the encounters and the AI, essentially. You're going to have designated encounters that are intended for 40-man groups. You're going to have designated content for party groups, elite monsters, and then you're going to have designated solo encounters, right? The idea there, I'm not a huge fan of scaling. I think that kind of diminishes. I think it diminishes your achievements, and if you're always fighting the same difficulty level, it's a monotonous experience and it kind of sucks. So, you know, that's why we have statically designated types of content.
And so that actually leads me to another question I have with leveling. So whenever you're leveling out in the world, the time frame that they gave and that Lazy Peon gave was 45 days, playing 4 to 6 hours a day. Is that accurate, or where would you kind of expect it to lie?
Yeah, I'm always hesitant to, you know, to have answered that in the
I get
past
that.
because I don't want to give people the wrong impression. But I would say this safely: a lot of games are built around very fast progression, and you know, our philosophy is there are many different progression paths. Not everything is tied to your adventuring class and leveling your adventuring class. There's advancement within societies of nodes. There's the advancement of the nodes itself. There's the advancement of your artisanship classes and gatherables. There's advancement within the religion system. There's advancement that is in exploration. There's a lot of different things that players can do to progress. So it kind of, you know, to kind of tie it all back to just the adventuring class and being able to get max level in a week, that's not going to be Ashes of Creation. Ashes of Creation on the adventuring class side will require some substantive dedication in order to level up. You know, we want to get back to that more nostalgic kind of design philosophy where your investment in your character is meaningful and not everybody is going to get a participation reward.
Well, that's certainly a relief. And
Yeah.
whenever you're leveling up, so you're going from, like, there are zones that are, for instance, level 20 zones that if you go to level 30, those mobs are still level 20. And if you go there at level 10, the mobs are still also level 20.
So actually, there's a unique component. You know, the biggest
Okay.
thing that sets Ashes of Creation apart from pretty much every MMO.
One thing I have to say about Azmon is he's very expressive, right? Like he's his eyebrows are constantly twitching. It's almost like he's got like a form of facial Tourette's. And in a way, I almost think that's intentional. I think it's something that he's done that's very practiced because, you know, here I am, because I was just thinking, like, I'm sitting here watching him and I'm probably looking fairly stone-faced because, well, it's, you know, the kind of reaction that I'm going to have isn't going to be the same as if it was a face-to-face conversation. But yeah, Azmon is very, I find he's very expressive, and some of his looks are just funny. It just, you know, it's he would make a good cartoon character, you know, just to do one of those face modeling and motion captures and stuff like that. He's very expressive, but he is asking really good questions. You know, he's asking questions that aren't, I think, too technical. You know, he's confirming a lot of the stuff from the video we just watched, which I think is really important too, because, you know, there's a lot of times where somebody can put a very legitimate looking video together and it can be full of absolute garbage, right? So he's confirming a lot of stuff. And I kind of like the answer to the last one where, yes, if you were to just do one thing, you can level faster, but chances are you're going to do a bunch of other things at the same time that are going to distract you from the one thing. So, and it also sounds like getting to max level as fast as possible may not be as important as leveling up your other relationships and your other skills at the same time. So it almost sounds like if you race to max level, and you've left all of the other content to the side, that when you go back to that content, you've kind of, you may have missed out on certain things. Or when you think about leveling up a node, there are things that you're going to have to do to level up the node that may take you off of that adventure path that I'm just grinding to max level. And that's going to slow your leveling down because now you're traveling to different places and stuff like that. And if you also factor in that as a node develops, you get access to more content, it almost sounds like to level strictly through adventure mode is going to be a lot more difficult if you're not working on developing nodes and stuff like that. Because if you're just running around in the wilderness, your mobs don't change. They don't evolve. The events that you have access to stay the same. And, well, as with anything, it's going to be diminishing returns, right? As you out-level the mobs around you, you get less and less experience. Whereas if you're developing that node at the same time, then you're constantly or regularly opening up the door to more content, to higher level creatures, to dungeons, and you're going to actually maximize your XP so that it almost sounds like it's a trade-off, right? Like you could spend a lot of time just adventuring, or you can go off that path and develop the node, and the reward for that distraction is greater XP. And so you're not really losing out in your leveling, because well, you've opened up a raid now, and that raid is going to give you X amount of XP, and well, raids give you more XP than just adventuring does, but you wouldn't have had access to that raid if you didn't go and do something else first. So I really like that. I think that really helps to maintain balance in the game. It's balance in the force. And those people that just think that they can just grind it out, I'm wondering if they might actually slow their leveling so much that the people that are doing all of these other things are actually able to maintain their level with somebody who's just strictly grinding out on the adventure path, or perhaps could even surpass that person who's just got the blinders on, is being pig-headed, saying, must kill zombies, must kill zombies, must kill zombies, and level. Meanwhile, you're out there and you're crafting items, and you're getting maybe some experience from that, or you're skilling up a trade, which gives you more access to a better weapon or money, so you can buy a better weapon or get access. And meanwhile, the other guy's just picking up drops, and now you have a pocket full of coin, and you find yourself a blacksmith, and you say, hey, I want this sword. Here's some cash. And now you're leveling with gear at a very comparative rate, if not faster. And I kind of like that. I don't know if that's exactly what they're meaning, but it kind of sounds like that is what they may be attempting to do. And that is a very novel approach. I like that.
That's come before it is that as nodes, nodes are the primary world building mechanic in the game. You go throughout the world,
Right.
You do your normal MMO things, you kill monsters, you do quest lines, you gather goods, whatever. As you're doing that, you're collecting that experience, and a node somewhere is collecting that experience as well. And as the node advances in stages, at each stage, it's actually changing the spawn tables around it. So you have dedicated points of interest that exist around each of the node locations. And as the node advances, it advances the level of the mobs in certain locations so that those areas remain relevant. One of the biggest problems that MMOs...
Yeah, like you said there, that skill is more important than leveling, so you can experience everything. And like he just said, as you level up the node, the spawn tables change. So it's exactly what I was just saying. So if I just shut up and let this guy talk, I would have... And he made the same point I just did, so... My apologies.
Have that I've experienced in the past, and the reason, partially one of the reasons
but it's
why
smart.
I wanted this
I really like
place
that.
is because you always had these starting areas that were empty, worthless, and had no relevance after an initial launch, right? Or a new expansion launch. And that's kind of one of the intrinsic problems with MMOs. It appears to be like, from a new player acquisition point, MMOs don't typically fare well. From a retention standpoint, they tend to fare better than most.
There.
So how can we kind of solve that problem? And one of the ideas I had was, with the node progressing and unlocking new content, that maintains relevancy of those zones so that new players come back. And the reason why it's important, not new players, leveled players come back. And the reason why that's important is because one of the problems of a new player joining an existing MMO is there's no social experience because of those empty starting zones. There's nobody there to... Exactly. Yeah. So one of the ways we kind of solve that is if the primary source of new content is the node system, then you're always going to have these nodes that exist near the starting areas for players to kind of get introduced into societies, religions, and guilds and whatnot, and still have the relevant monsters and quest lines for them to progress. But there's going to be, higher level end game characters that are present at the node as well for them to get inducted into, guilds or whatever.
So,
okay, I got to point out, because I'm watching this game stuff up here. Buddy is running in and out of that lava, taking no damage whatsoever. And I'm assuming this is his life health bar up here. He is being mauled by these zebra raptors, and his life isn't going down. So somebody's playing like God mode up here, and yeah, with their WoW icons. Like that one's WoW for sure. That one's WoW for sure. I think that one's very similar to a WoW one. I'm pretty sure that's a WoW one. That one I don't think is, unless it's a new one. But but yeah, he's taking absolutely no damage from any of this stuff. I think if you jump in the lava, you should be taking some damage. But that's just side commentary.
So, like, for example, I don't know, like, how close this is, but I'll give you, like, a scenario and just let me know if this is, if I'm hot or cold here. So, like, imagine there's, like, a mountain, and then if you're mining in the mountain, eventually you start finding, small, little, like, fire salamanders, and then you advance your node a little bit farther, and now you're seeing, medium-sized drakes, and then you advance your node even further, and then there's an actual dragon inside of the node. Is that pretty much how it works?
It's not only that, but it's a little bit better as well, because the way we spawn nodes in real time as those assets come online. Sorry about that. I was getting a call.
It's all good.
As the nodes come online, points of interest start to manifest as well. So you might be mining at that node, fighting a little fire salamander, and that fire salamander might stay there when the node progresses. But next to the mine you were mining, a dungeon has now appeared. Basically, the entrance has opened up because some archaeologists are attracted to the stage 3 node, right? And now that dungeon has relevant content for higher level people. So and the content that you're experiencing with the little fire salamander might remain, but as the spawn tables progress and points of interest start to come online for content, now new players are going to come and be attracted to that stuff. Yes.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And there's one thing that you said too that did kind of spark my interest. There are religions in this game, is that right?
Sorry, you're right. One of the important questions, I'd coughed. One of the very important questions he just missed in a follow-up is if you're mining in that node and the node progresses to the next level, does what you're gathering change as well, right? Is there a different table for what you're gathering? So if I'm gathering plants, do I and the node elevates to the next level, do additional plants spawn that I can herbalize, or do new minerals appear that I can mine? Do new types of wood appear that I can cut down for lumber? Does that kind of stuff happen in the nodes as well? Like, is it collectively like the entire area levels up and therefore it assists with all of your crafting? Or, well, I would like to think the answer is yes, but it may not be. By the sounds of it, where I'm picking flowers may not change. The flowers that I'm picking might stay the same in that area, but they may bloom in a different part of the node that they did not bloom in before. And that, see, loot and crafting is different. Like crafting materials and loot, I think is different. And like you said earlier, when you're doing your collecting, if you're doing your collector job, there's a chance that you can get rare materials from what you're doing. So if I've been picking daisies, and the node levels, does that mean that the chance of me picking a rare item with that daisy increase because the node has increased? Or is it only when I increase the level of my tool? Because he said, the higher the level of the tool, or the higher quality of the tool that you're using, can lead to that. So it's yeah, I'm pretty sure the obvious answer is yes, but it doesn't hurt to ask as just a quick follow-up.
That's correct. There are 6
Wow.
primary religions, as well as an underwhelm religion that players can progress in. And religions, societies like the Scholars Academy, Thieves Guild, they all have progression in rank and title. So as players, essentially, players have to choose which religion they're going to be a part of. They have to choose which society they're going to be a part of. They choose which guild.
Well, not only that, but if you have seasons, do trees grow? Right? So you say you travel down a road and there's a little sapling. And then a year's gone by, right? You travel down that same road, that sapling is now twice its size. And then you come down that road again a little later, and that sapling now is a very small tree. And, I wonder if something like that may happen as well. It didn't look like it when it showed the seasons changing. That might be something they add, because it's not a difficult mechanic. But that being said, if you're a lumberjack and you go and you chop down a tree, is that tree gone for everybody? Or does the tree basically stay there? You just can't chop it down anymore. Like Red Dead Online, great example. If I see some oregano on the ground and core code's in my posse, I can go strip out that oregano, put it in my pocket, and then core code can come behind me to that same plant, pull that oregano, strip it, and put it in his pocket. So, yeah, how would that work? I would think that the tree would probably either temporarily despawn, or would just be marked as you can no longer farm that particular entity, and you would have to continue on to a different entity, and then after a set period of time you could return and mine from that entity again. Just like in World of Warcraft, when you mine a copper node, it'll disappear, but you come back a hour later, and chances are it's respawned, and you can mine it again.
They're going to be part of. As you choose those things, there is progression within the those societies that are quest based as well as objective based. So essentially, like the Thieves Guild may want a specific book from the Scholars Academy, and your node is a patron node of the Thieves Guild, so that's the only society it has available to it. You're a member of that Thieves Guild, you receive an objective that many players receive as well, to steal the book from a nearby node from their Scholar Academy building. Scholar Academy buildings are going to be flagged to kind of encounter and see you, and they can try to stop you. But if you're successful, you get experience, and you also get notoriety within the organization that grants you access to special shops, titles, and abilities that come online during either node sieges or different types of events.
That's cool.
So are these different religions? I mean, I'm sure there's a real life parallel to this as well, but are these different religions and guilds, not necessarily guilds, but like different organizations like the Thieves Guild and everything like that? Are these going to be?
You know what he needs? He needs to put some like some stuff on his eyebrows, and attach them to some strings that go up to some pulleys and some generators, because he could probably generate a little bit of power with how much his eyebrows go up. And I find people that are really expressive facially really interesting, because part of my work as well is reading body language. It's very important, and so I find body language to be very intriguing in how people use it to communicate, because like 70% of our communication is body language. It's how do we use our hands, how we use our face, and stuff like that. And he's just so expressive. It's almost it almost doesn't seem natural. Like if he talks like that all the time, yeah, I could see him. I could see people having a hard time taking him seriously, because he's almost over expressive. But in the streaming environment, right? In this kind of situation, it's great because it draws your eyes to him, which is smart. It's a very smart tactic. You might be watching the game, but all of a sudden his face starts doing the Jim Carrey Tourette's, and you want to look at him, right? And his face really becomes animated when he's talking, so he's always drawing your attention to him, so you're looking at him while he's talking. And part of the communication aspect is, if we're listening to somebody and we're not watching them, we're really only comprehending a fraction of what they're actually saying. It's as you could say, it's one ear and out the other in a lot of cases. Whereas when you're looking at somebody and you're reading their body language and their facial expression, we actually retain far more of what that person is actually saying. And we're able to, I guess, understand what the nuance of the conversation that they're having. And that may or may not. Let's continue.
Put at odds with each other through mechanics in the game, like via PvP, or is it just kind of something that plays out narratively?
So the guilds will have the opportunity to be at odds with one another through the guild war system, but they'll also have the ability to be friends with each other through the alliance system. The societies, which are more NPC driven, those will be predicated on the relationship your node has with surrounding nodes. So part of the mayoral duties is to maintain diplomatic relations with nearby nodes, and that flags the citizens. You can only ever be a citizen of one node, and that flags the citizens as either being at odds with the citizens of a nearby node, depending on that diplomacy, or allies of the nearby node citizenship. So you could either be flagged for battle for a period of time if there's a war, or you can participate with one another in certain events. So the way that relates to those societies is based on that diplomatic relation that's set by the mayor. You can have either cooperative quest lines that introduce players of other organizations, or you'll have adversarial quest lines such as the stealing of the book that I described before.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And so basically all of the kind of forced hostility, like where you see another player and they're hostile to you and you can attack them, all of that is opt-in. Like you opt in to make the decision like who you're hostile with?
That's correct. So
Okay.
there's no forced
somebody
hostility.
I get to ban.
So essentially the opt-in can be delegated either to leaders or to the individual. Essentially, let's say you're a part of a node as a citizen and the mayor decides that they want to go to war. I don't know how this happened, but my seat cushion heater got turned on. I was wondering why I was like firing up.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that's actually it's an interesting point, actually. So you can only be the citizen of one node. Now, I wonder if you can change your citizenship. I would imagine you'd have to have the ability to change your citizenship. But yeah, that's interesting, right? Because okay, say you have multiple guilds in one node. So does that mean that you're automatically friendly with other guilds in your node, right? So you're not always at odds with other guilds, right? So say you have a guild, I have a guild, and we're in the same node, then that would mean that we're technically friendly with each other. So it'd be like we're automatically allied. I have some sushi, so I'm just it's not sushi, it doesn't have fish in it. Well, one of them might. So does that mean you kind of have like an automatic guild alliance? Yeah, and do you have a way of not being loyal to your node? Could you effectively become a double agent of sorts? Could you become a spy for a different node? I think that's probably a level of intrigue that goes a little bit further than I think what they have the game currently designed for. But you'd probably, you'd probably, I guess, I mean, your citizenship is probably going to be on a scalable rank as well within that node. So if you change so if you're part of a node from day one and you help build it up, you're contributing XP to that node. And depending on how much you've contributed to that node, you could potentially be mayor in one of the or one of the archetypes of the buildings, right? So yeah, I guess if you went to a different node, yeah, you would have to start from scratch again. That would make sense.
I was like, I'm like, it's like 120 degrees outside, and I'm burning up.
Yeah,
with
it's
the
the
air
wrong
conditioning going.
time if you're in Las Vegas.
No, to answer your question, yeah, it's an opt-in system. Sometimes that opt-in is delegated to leaders like the mayor or your guild leader, but essentially you will always have the option to leave either that organization if you don't agree with the leadership, or to vote them out through the election system of the mayorship systems.
Yeah, that's something that, you know, as a streamer, I'm worried if they're going to vote for me or to vote me out. I'm certainly curious about that.
The cool thing about the node system and its government stuff is that there's four types of nodes, essentially. There is the democratic type, which is called our scientific node type. That's where the election method is by voting. There's the military type, where players receive a champion upon becoming a citizen, and they can level that champion up through doing quest lines, and they can grant the champion gear, and then they participate in gladiatorial arenas to see who the victor is, and that victor becomes the mayor. The divine node types have a quest-based kind of merit system, where the more questing you do for the temple of the node, the more likely you are to become mayor at the end of the election cycle. And then the economic system is more an oligarchy kind, where you contribute resources and gold to essentially bid for the highest bidder to become the mayor. So not always is it going to be through popularity contest. That's really just delegated to the scientific system.
I think that's a really good feature, because you're going to have some people that can just, you know, like if you have, like, let's say one guild that's completely dominant on the server, you're going to know that these people are always going to be in charge. But if there's different paths to progression, that kind of makes it at least a lot harder for that to happen. So that's
right. And not only is it absolutely, and not only is it harder, but, you know, I've always found in games that have non-faction based, more guild driven dynamics, that having a very powerful guild on the server is really almost always temporary. And either there's infighting that occurs, there are internal politics between the alliances, or some other guild rises to fight. And I think that's kind of, it replicates that dynamic of good versus evil type struggle, where people become invested. Now, obviously, if the mechanics and systems of a game are built in such a way that they do not provide some rails to how far a dominant guild can go to ruin the experience for others, then it's a bad design theory. But if the designs are maintained in such a way, such as in Ashes of Creation, where there is success that's demonstrably recognized through the advancement of that particular guild.
Okay, I want to point out here. So this video is 29 minutes. Az has not been logged out of the game yet. He's still sitting in game. He hasn't, as far as I know, clicked over to move or anything. But he's still in game. He has not been logged out to the load screen, to the character selection screen. After 30 minutes. He's got some special thing going on with WoW, man.
But you can't go as far as to ruin the game for other players, so to speak. You can definitely manifest your power, but you can't just at every end stop progression for other players. That's an important inclusion in an open world.
Well, not unless you're really trying to harass the hell out of them.
That leads into the whole corruption mechanic.
Right.
Yeah, and so the way that works, my understanding is that it's kind of like the more that you basically kill other players, the more hostile you become towards the not only other players in general, but also towards the NPCs as well.
Right. So, you know, I took a lot of inspiration for the open world flagging mechanics from Lineage 2. I thought that Lineage 2 did a great job in balancing both allowing the agency for players to kind of make rash decisions out of either, you know, extreme anger or whatever, as long as there's a downside. So the corruption mechanic is really designed in a way, like if you see somebody out there and you just hate this person and they've done something to you that's wrong, or they betrayed your guild and dropped with some boss loot or whatever, you know, the standard you know, drama that happens in MMOs that makes it fun.
Yes.
And you want to kill that person, you know, you have the
He's still in call. He's driving, so...
as long as you understand that it's a heads up, because there is normal... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you just cut out for a couple of seconds.
Oh, sorry about that.
I was just letting him know.
Sorry about that. So, yeah, the corruption system. So basically the way it works is there's a standard death penalty, and that death penalty allows you to, upon death, acquire a debt experience, and that debt experience can impact your normal gameplay by either diminishing some of the power of your skills if you accrue too much, and the normal death penalty that you accrue is actually halved if you fight back. So if you're rolling up on a person and they're not flagged and you're not flagged, you can attack them. You will become a combatant. They will still be a non-combatant. If they fight back and they die as a combatant, you lose half of the normal death penalties you would normally lose. So we're incentivizing consensual PvP. If the player were to kill you and you did not flag back, you didn't fight back, and you were still a non-combatant, they're going to gain a corruption score. And that corruption score multiplies their normal death penalties by 4 times. It also adds the opportunity for them to drop completed gear upon death, and it flags them for the bounty hunter system. So bounty hunters, from
their character. They drop gear from their character?
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so see there, I don't know. So you ride up on me, you start attacking me, and I'm like, whoa, what the hell? My natural inclination is to fight back. I mean, I'm getting my ass whooped. My natural inclination is to fight back. So if I fight back, then you as the person attempting to grief me or kill me, because there's no reason for you to attack me otherwise, you get half the penalty. If I understand that. So basically, if I'm not interested in PvP whatsoever, and you ride up on me and you start whooping my ass, I should just take it. Just bend over, drop trowel, and say, give it to me, be gentle. I guess. I mean, I would say the first time somebody does that, yeah, I mean, you'd have I would say an average or a standard penalty. And then if I res, and then you ride up and do it again, and kill me, or if there's like a significant level discrepancy. But it sounds like, what if you're fighting a mob, right? Or I'm fighting a mob, right? I'm beating on some wild boar. You come up and you start whacking on me, and my target changes and I hit you. As long as there's no mind control mechanic, right? I mean, the last thing you want is somebody mind controls you into attacking them, and then that forces you to get all the penalties. But a mind control would probably be seen as, yeah, I mean, in any situation, right? In any situation like this, there is always going to be a way to force people into a PvP. WoW has many situations where you can get forced into PvP. And so people will figure out a way to abuse this mechanic. Absolutely, people will abuse this mechanic.
Yes, so they can drop equipped gear if they're corrupt. Now, that's a conscious decision that player is making to become corrupt, though. So it's again, you have to weigh the cost-benefit ratio there. And the idea is that if you gain too much corruption, meaning you try to turn into either a PK character or something along those lines, you're going to be, eventually at some point, you're going to be combat ineffective. Not only are you going to potentially lose your gear significantly more, but you'll also have less impact from combat skill percentage standpoint. And then additionally, for corrupt players, there's 2 ways that you can essentially lose that corruption.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
When you die, you lose a significant portion of the corruption. If you go and you hunt and you gain experience, that starts to diminish the corruption you have as well. So at that point, it becomes kind of a cat and mouse game, because you're present on the map for bounty hunters, and because there's limited fast travel in the game, kind of really just determined by metropolises, they're going to have to travel out to you, and you're not going to be very easily able to scroll back to town, so to speak, as you would in other games. So that cat and mouse relationship provides benefits to the bounty hunter if they successfully kill corrupt players, but it also allows the corrupt player to fight back against the bounty hunter, and the bounty hunter is always flagged against the corrupt player. So the corrupt player can fight back and kill the bounty hunter without additional.
And you'll know who the bounty hunter is.
So it's like, yeah, it's a cat and mouse game. Okay, well that's pretty interesting. Is there so
becomes a game
you
of
have
tag.
to do a lot of PKing to start actually losing this kind of this stuff, right? Like your combat
Right.
effectiveness and all.
Yeah, not only do you have to do a lot of PKings that are consecutive, but if you have a number of PKs on your record without going through, we haven't really described this to the community yet, but there is a method by which you can lower your previous PK count so that it doesn't exacerbate the next amount of corruption you gain from the system. But corruption, you also gain more if you have a lot of previous PKs as well. So it's a cumulative
It's like
effect.
a karma system almost.
Right.
Okay, and so you do have like guild sieges and all that kind of stuff, and all of that is completely outside of the corruption system because it's consensual.
Right. The corruption system only applies to open world flagging. All PvP events that are contained within opt-in systems, such as castle sieges, node sieges, caravan fights, guild wars, and node wars, those are all self-contained within specific systems that don't utilize the flagging system and do not utilize the corruption system. Those are where you automatically become combatants against the player pool for the defense or the attacking side.
And so going over to like the way the housing works, the freeholds effectively are just player housing out in the open world.
So I still want to know how you initiate guild wars.
So there's
like
three
combat with
there's
other
three
guilds.
types of housing. There's in-node static housing, which are open world housings that are, they come online with each advancement of the node. There's apartment systems, which are instance housing that essentially, you must own a house within a node zone of influence or within a node before you can become a citizen of the node. So those instance apartments kind of grant the ability for players to become citizens of those nodes. There's some that start, but then also mayors get to elect construction sites, which are public work projects that the citizens can participate in. They can grant, resources to those buildings, and he can construct additional apartment buildings.
So I got to set that up.
Construct advanced crafting.
That's the one thing I need to figure out how to do is when people donate, they get that little text thingy. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. Sorry, just oh man, that must feel bad. Or the penalty for the victim is only to walk the distance if he was far away from spawn point. Yeah, if you get killed, you just have to walk back to your body. And imagine if the PK wait for you to come back in the same area and kill you again. Yeah, that would just be annoying. But I mean, for a death penalty by player, that's not too terrible. Is that the same death penalty as when a mob kills you, right? Like if it's a PvE death, if it's a PvE death, what's the death penalty? Because with WoW, all it is your gear degradates a little bit, and you have to walk. You have to walk the distance or call your mount or whatever. Well, no, because you're a ghost. So, yeah, in ghost form, you have to run back to your body. Yeah, I got to figure out how to set up that donation thing. That's probably over my Streamlabs control somewhere. I think I need to hit Fiverr and see if there's somebody that can help me set up my Twitch stream properly. Anyways, I digress.
Stations, he can construct diplomatic buildings, marketplaces, auction houses. It all depends. But then the player housing, the third type is the freehold system, and the freehold system is one per account.
Well, and the thing is, right? If you could create an alt that alt is specifically for PKing, and you could use that strategically, right? Like you could have your alt luring people into different situations, right? Like you could, it depends on how the guild thing works, because I would imagine the bounty hunters are going to be a bounty hunter guild, right? And if you wanted to get the drop on a bounty hunter guild, maybe, out of revenge or whatever, you have your guild is around you. You have an alt. You are flagged as the PK alt to the bounty hunters, and they are flagged to you, and you can tell your guild when they're riding up on you And as they're kicking your alt's butt, your guild can come in, and would that count as a guild fight? Because they're attacking your guildie, and they're a guild. So could you then, as non-flagged characters, kill the bounty hunters and not get any penalty? Because it's now a guild versus guild. Or do you have to do some form of formal declaration of guild war, right? Do you have to file with the mayor or file with the town saying, we declare war on this guild? Because that would be a very fun mechanic. Because, yeah, I know that. I mean, you can have a lot of fun with that, luring people, setting ambushes. I mean, it's no different than, people doing caravan runs. Exactly, yeah, they're only flagged to the PKer, right? So say I'm the PK guy, and you guys are the bounty hunters, and I'm in the Dangulars Guild, because that's what we'll call our guild. And so my guild mates are hiding in the bushes. So all of you as a guild ride up on me, because I'm flagged as the player killer, and you are flagged as a bounty hunter. So we can see each other on the map, but my guild mates cannot see you. So I'm in chat saying, okay, the bounty hunters, they're just coming into range now. You guys come in, you start attacking me. My guild starts attacking you because you initiated the attack on me. And because my guild is surrounding me. I don't know, like that. If you can do that, that is damn clever. I mean, that creates so much more variety in the PvP experience, because you can't do that really anywhere else. I think if someone flagged, he would be kicked out from the guild unless they are an assassin guild type. So they will all be on the... Yeah, I don't know. I maybe just to... I mean, if you're like an egregious PKer, maybe. But I don't think you'd be kicked out, because you can reverse your PK, right? Like you said, you can start hunting and stuff like that, and your PK level will go down. There's going to be other ways that you can cleanse yourself. Maybe you can go into a church and you pray to your god, and you can reduce, maybe you're from fire engine red down to posy pink, right? And as far as your PK range. So you don't necessarily have to be kicked out of your guild, because you can effectively, over enough time, reduce your PK status to 0 or near 0. So, yeah, I'm just thinking a possibility. I mean, it creates an additional game mechanic that isn't an official part of the game, because there does need to be a risk reward for the bounty hunters, because it may not just be one bounty hunter that's going up for one person. Now, can bounty hunters interfere with each other, right? If say 2 bounty hunters from 2 different guilds show up in my area and they're both targeting me, can they interfere with each other to get my kill? Right? Like, how does that work? Like, obviously it's going to be first come, first served up on a silver platter. But if I'm fighting back against the bounty hunter that's after me, you come in after. Now, does it matter who gets the final shot, gets the credit? Or is it going to be based on how much damage you do gets the credit? So, yeah, I mean, it's just nuance, right? These are good questions for the forums. These are really good questions for the forums. Hopefully I can remember these questions.
Grants you a large parcel of land, which you must then collect blueprints for, and then collect resources to build those buildings. And that's really kind of the processing plant of each player. They'll be able to take raw resources that they either purchase from other people or that they acquire themselves, and they'll be able to process them into material goods that can
what
be
are they
then
doing to
used
pour
for,
Squidward up there?
For crafting.
Is there going to be something like a effectively guild freehold, like something larger, like a castle?
Correct. So guilds advance in level, And the way guilds advance in level is through
Let's see. Cunning. That is why the large group of friends will not have species spies. But the casual players in guilds will be in danger from these types of strategies. Yes and no. I mean, if you're a casual player and or guild and you're not PKing, then you don't have the bounty hunters coming after you. But this also goes to the question of how do you trigger the guild combat, right? Like, do you have to do an official registration of war between your guild and another guild? Or can it be your guilds have interacted negatively on multiple occasions, and therefore you've just built up like a natural reputation, right? Like, say a couple of guild members meet, and my guild member meets up with your guild member and they fight PvP, and so that creates a conflict. So on the scale of peaceful war, right, it moves from peaceful a little bit towards neutral, right? And then maybe out of revenge because you killed my guildie, I kill you, right? So now that moves a little bit more towards neutral, or maybe we're at neutral or something. And now because there's two of us that have revenged on you, a couple of your guildies show up and we fight, and that again moves our guild reputations more into negative territory until you get to the point where you're just at war. And there needs to be a parlay system as well, I would expect, so you can end the war. Or the war would just initiate, and after so many days it would automatically go back to peaceful or something like that. That I'm kind of interested in knowing how that works.
specific quest lines that are attributed to the guild members that they must participate in, and or achievements that the guild can achieve. When they advance in level, the guild has the opportunity to allocate guild skill points in their skill tree, to either allowing them to include additional membership or to focusing passive abilities that the guild members can have as a benefit of being in the guild. So essentially what that allows is guilds can either be more focused into kind of elite teams that are smaller, that have specific objectives during these large encounters like castle sieges and
like
whatnot,
platoons,
or they can be more on the higher member count side. And essentially
Zerg
at a
versus
certain
Protoss.
stage, right,
Yeah.
exactly. And at a certain stage of that guild's advancement, there comes an opportunity for the guild to elect to own a guild hall freehold. So essentially what that does is it grants the guild leader the additional opportunity to follow a quest line for a guild freehold plot that he would be the owner of, but the guild has access to and can contribute towards, and that allows them to build a guild hall out in a freehold system. Also, there's static in-node guild halls as well, which come with different benefits and opportunities.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that's one of the things that I know that McConnell and I talked about is like how large could these things be, and so you'd be able to pretty much destroy them and you can destroy guild freeholds too. You can assault guild freeholds.
Right. So the way that destruction works is as nodes advance, there are quest systems that are relating to achieving a siege scroll, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And players can undertake that quest. They can acquire the siege scroll, and they can then lay the siege scroll down to declare a siege against a specific node. And depending on the stage of the node will determine the quest line required and the additional resources needed to reflect kind of not only the amount of effort it took to build that node, but that should be somewhat equitable to the amount of effort it takes to siege that node, right? So once the siege has been declared, a server message goes out that tells the server, hey, in X days time, there will be a siege at this time. And all of the all of the allianced nodes with that node become automatically registered defenders for the siege. And they will be flagged as defending the combatants against the attackers. And any player who's not affiliated with an allied node of that node can come and register to attack against that node.
Oh, wow.
And what happens is during a 2-hour period of time, there's a central objective that players must participate in. The defenders must run the clock out or destroy the headquarters of the attackers, and the attackers must gain access to the city, kill the quartermasters, which increases the respawn time of the defenders and decreases the respawn time of the attackers. And then they must reach a center point where they cast a 5-minute cast that's channeled and can't be interrupted by CC, but can be interrupted through death on a central flag that exists in the
capture
node.
the flag.
If the attackers are successful, what happens is the raw goods and the processed materials that are stationed within that regional warehouse that players are using become lootable. A portion of it is sunk, and then a portion becomes lootable to the attackers. In addition,
so you can steal their stuff.
You can steal raw gatherables and processed goods, correct.
Nice.
You can't steal completed items or potions or equipment, but you can steal the raw gatherables. But the more important incentive is that as over a guild's lifespan, over a node's lifespan, they have what's called a reliquary. And the reliquary is a building within the node that houses all of the accomplishments, the achievements, the unique and legendary items that the node has achieved that the citizens have access to for different crafting things. And it destroys the reliquary, and access to limited use of those reliquaries are granted to the attackers as well.
Wow.
Now, if the siege is successful, the buildings inside are destroyed, including static and node housing and the apartment building.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to be tedious for the players to essentially go and find a new node, and they can save their furniture layout, and they'll get their furniture mailed back to them, so they're not going to lose that component. We don't want to make it too tedious to kind of get back up and running again, because change should be a common theme in Ashes through the destruction and siege mechanics. But on the freehold side, after the siege is completed and the attackers have won, there's a 2-hour window where the marauding kind of barbarians can go out into the open world where the zone of influence for that node was relevant, and can attack the freehold systems.
Basically,
now, players
you can
will have
sack
the
and
ability
plunder.
to defend their freehold, and if they survive that 2-hour window of destructibility, they will have a grace period where they can wait and see if another node pops up that they can exist under. And if they do successfully get another node risen in that grace period, then they'll fall under the tax purview of that node.
Okay, so you either get all your shit destroyed or you have to pay them.
Jesus.
That's pretty much how it works. Okay, so it's like basically.
So say you have the node, and then you have neighboring nodes that you're allied with, which means a group from another node from far off has to travel through all of these nodes to the central node, drop a scroll, and everybody that you're allied with in the neighboring nodes can come and help defend up to 250 people, right? Because from what I understand, it's 250 people is the max per side. And then if you just happen to be visiting that same node when the declaration comes out, you can join the attackers. So you don't even have to be part of the same guild or even part of the same node that is attacking them. And then if you win, you get to go out and basically pillage and plunder. At least try to. That's kind of cool. Oh yeah, I'm almost done my sushis or whatever, my rice rolls. That is kind of cool, and that is kind of nerve-wracking at the same time. And then if you're like, wow, so if you're like a really successful node, and you have a lot of legendary items, and you have a lot of stored loot and stuff, right? Like say you're like a really rich node. You better be able to defend yourself. Like you got to really be ready and prepared. Because if somebody else decides that they want your crap, and if they get limited use of your legendary items, like say you have somebody that's like that far from mastering something, and all they need is 1 or 2 uses of some items that you have. I mean, that could technically be enough of a reason. Yeah, wow. That's kind of cool. I kind of like that. Yeah, you will be a target, 100%.
like like a real life, the old marauders raiding like different cities, right? After they destroy the capital, they go and they attack the outrider
Correct.
bit, which is okay.
Correct. And one of the
yeah.
big things, one of the big targets
Very
for
sticky
players will
rice.
be during that time is housing. One of the biggest benefits of housing is that it offers you a separate depository, separate warehouse system where you can deploy chests in the housing, right? And the freehold systems have superior type chests that can be granted. They also store the processing raw materials takes time within the processing plants, those buildings that you construct on the freehold. So during the declaration of a siege, that declaration period that might last 3 to 5 days, depending on the size of the node, the ability to remove raw goods and gatherables or materials from the storage containers is suspended. You can't do it until after the siege.
Yeah.
So if there's some like legendary, there's a guild hall out there with a shit ton of materials and goods that that guild has, and you want to surprise them with that declaration, and you succeed, your next target is to go destroy that guild hall so you can then also loot their chests.
Wow.
And this is the size of this goes up to 250 on each side.
So that's for castle sieges.
Okay.
Castle sieges, there are 5 unique castles that exist in the world. One per region, one per economic region.
Yeah,
and they exert control.
But it says if you had
taxation rights over the.
But he did say if you have like legendary items, they get limited use of those items as well. So I'm guessing those are going to be things that, because it sounds like these are things that give you buffs. So I'm thinking it may not be like an item. It sounded almost like these are things that would give you a buff of some kind. And then they would get a limited use of that. Sign up. I'm already signed up. I'm good. Oh, referral code. I see. Yeah, I'm already signed up. I'm already in for that stuff. But
nodes that live under their region. And they also have unique benefits from a crafting and from a crop rotation standpoint, as well as unique items and equipment and abilities that are granted to the host guild that owns it.
I think I'm pretty much sold on this.
Guilds go to register to attack those castles, and it's a 250 versus 250 player encounter. Now, that's really easy to accomplish. We have a great veteran team of developers, many of whom came from PlanetSide 1 and 2. And as you'll know, PlanetSide 2 hosts the largest concurrent online battle of over 1,000 players in a single area, and we have the lead programmers from those games. So we feel very confident in the custom backend that we've been building under Unreal Engine 4 that we'll be able to facilitate that. Part of the the whole debacle, and we got a lot of shit for it with APOC, was to essentially test these systems. And luckily, during that testing period, we did discover that there were some architectural issues with the things that we were developing. If we had waited until later in the testing cycle, after systems have been built on top of those foundational architectures, it would have been a whole different beast to kind of to fix. So luckily, we discovered it early through that testing method, and we were able to fix it. And we have been demonstrating thousands of NPCs in a single zone, along with hundreds of players in our recent Alpha 1 preview testing.
So you're confident in having 500 players in combat simultaneously, being able to do a castle siege with minimal lag?
I will tell you this. We are extremely confident on the 250 versus 250. Right now, we're trying to push it to 500 versus 500, but I can't give any promises we'd be able to achieve that.
Okay, so he's just saying they're hoping. Oh, he's got dirt by. Sorry, Az. Yeah. So he's saying they may increase it to 500 to 500. Holy crap! Yeah, I've been looking at the 375 as well, and I mean, is it worth it? I mean, okay, so you get Alpha 2 test phase, and then a couple of betas. So, I mean, based on the complexity of this game right now, as they're talking, right, there's a lot of nuance, and depending on how different mechanics work, as we've just kind of discussed, there's a lot of potential for game mechanics and being creative. We'll say creative, okay? Um, so having the ability to play through 3 test phases, to work on the different mechanics, to play test through how does certain combat systems work. What do you lose, right? Because here's the other side of this when it comes to node wars and whatever. You might be in a node that is maybe higher than the ones next to it, but hasn't really accomplished anything, right? Like your node is, it's on the up and up, but overall there's not really a lot there. And so there may be strategic value in allowing somebody to come and do a siege on you so you can leave and you just move away, depending on how easy or hard it is to move and set up in a different node. Now you also do get 9 months of game time. And I'm going to probably bet, because a lot of these games do this, you'll probably get a little extra, you might get an extra month out of that, right? Because the first month, like I remember when WoW first launched, I think I got a free month and a half game time out of that. And just because all the lag and everything they had. So you're getting $135 value, $15 a month subscription. So really, I mean, if you do, then what are you actually paying for? All right, so $375. Now this is all American. So you're paying really $240. And if you're going to pay for all of this stuff, you're probably going to play for, I would say, at least 6 months. 125 embers and in-game marketplace credits. That's your microtransactions for cosmetic only. So, I mean, I don't know if that really has much value, to be honest. It doesn't to me. I don't really engage in microtransactions anyways. And then, yeah, then you get Thickets Endowment, Accessory, Cosmetic, Skin. So that's probably Thickets. I think it's this thing right here. Bog Brute right there. Timeless Terrapin Mount. Cosmetic Skin. Oh, is that thing, this thing right here maybe? Mire Shade Shroud. Mire Shade Shroud. That might be that thing there. Refugee of Tranquil Waters. Might be this thing here. Freehold Building Cosmetic Skin, or it's probably that one up there. Yeah, Verdant Voyager Caravan. That'd probably be this thing right here. And name reservation. Usually what name reservation means is you enter in your name into a field, and basically it just means nobody else can use that name. Now, does that mean nobody can use that name across all servers? I would think so. So you will also be able to purchase future monthly cosmetics as add-ons for the Voyager Plus level pre-order pack and below. Pre-order pack cosmetics are only available during the month they are featured and will never be available again for purchase. In order to own a pre-order pack's cosmetics, you must either purchase the pre-order pack during the month that the cosmetic is featured, or have purchased that level pack or higher in a previous month in order to buy the cosmetic as an add-on. Kickstarter and summer backers will always be able to purchase pre-order pack cosmetics as add-ons. So now I'm in Canada, so $375 probably works out to $425 or something like that, right? So if you go in here, you go XE. Now these guys are usually pretty close to it. So yeah, so we do $375 to Canadian. Holy shit! Okay, so I was wrong. So it's $500. So yeah, I don't see. That's why I don't know if I'd get that, because that is ouch. And then obviously paying with a credit card, you're dealing with exchange rate fees on top of it. So, I mean, I'm really going to have to get sold on this to go this high. I do like the name reservation, because I think if you're a Twitch streamer and you plan on making any kind of move as a Twitch streamer, you kind of want to protect your name. To some degree, what do you get here? You don't get any name reservation here, but you do get all the other stuff. So they're really putting a lot of money, and you get 6 months game time. So they're really betting a lot of value on that name, for sure. So let's see. That's what do we got here? So what I think of, they dropped the price down a lot because you'll be past alpha phase 2 and going into beta. I also don't know the name reservation works would be able to do it right now or right away, or do they set a day and everyone logs in for like a minute, picks a name and logs out. I would imagine you'd probably do that name reservation right away. I would think that would be a sooner than later thing. Any idea when alpha 2 will drop? There was something on the website I did remember seeing news. Where was it? I did MMO. I did remember seeing something that showed the explore the MMO, explore the apocalypse. I think there was something that showed their current timeline. Oh, here we go. It looked just like that. So 2020. So January, Alpha 1, March, May, summer. Looks like this year they're doing Alpha 1. So not exactly sure when Alpha 2 is, but it could be winter, because it's January, March, May, summer, fall. So we could see a winter 2020. I'm thinking full release. It'll definitely be late. I mean, if they release the game, they're going to want to do a release either fall 2021 or spring 2022. Because those are the two times that you're going to get the most bang for your buck out of stuff. So if you count the cosmetic credits, you're spending $115 to get into the game at the Alpha 2 phase, which, in my opinion, might even be a year before the game actually releases on top of those free cosmetics too. Exactly. Plus, your feedback could change the game. No set date. Yeah. So, yeah, and I think I would give it at least a year, a solid year before release. So I would say, a year from November at the earliest, and then like the guy in the previous video said, you're looking at potentially 2 years. So do I want to drop $500 and sit on that for 2 years? No, I don't. But that being said, I mean, I have $1,300 invested in Star Citizen, and look where that game is. And I've been invested in that game for years. Like, years. It's like 2016, at least. Maybe 2015, 2016. I was dumb. I got the Rear Admiral. So, and then I bought some other ships and stuff. At least it's kind of somewhat playable. So there's that. So yeah, do I want to drop $500 on this right now? Well, that's what this is all about, right? That's why I'm doing this. This is me getting information. This is me learning about the game, hearing from the developer, getting to know you guys, other people that are interested in this game, and seeing where you're at. And yeah, am I going to have faith in this game, right? Because I mean, I'm kind of at the process. Like if you look at the tabs up here, I'm looking at computer parts, right? Asus, ROG, Strix, RTX, whatever. AMD Ryzen 9 3900 XT. I mean, I'm thinking of building a brand new computer. So, yeah, and I need to take a bio break. A lot of yelling in that one. Okay, so let's continue with the video. And thank you guys for being so patient. It's wonderful. 17 people. Every time I do one of these commercials, I'm probably making 2 or 3 cents. So bonus.
On the 250 versus 250 front, we're very confident on that. There's some very specific culling algorithms that we have applied to essentially not only from the client side where
spell
we deal
effects
with the
and
rendering
stuff.
issues. Yeah, there's scalability on spell effects. There's default player appearances to help rendering on the client side. But more importantly, on the networking side, determining net relevancy and hosting specific players across distributed services on the server side is a new type of architecture that we're employing for Ashes of Creation, which will help facilitate those larger battles.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. The castle sieges, especially from somebody like I love seeing those gigantic battles, like the planet side ones, the EVE Online battles, and just seeing something like that. That's what really kind of inspires me to play the game. And so with WoW, they've had a lot of problems with that, and I'm really glad to hear that, because that's one thing that really makes an MMO, the first and
big
massive.
battles.
You have a lot of people in the same place.
Yeah, I mean that's one of our core tenets, right? Is kind of putting that massive back and massively multiplayer. Some of the most fun that I've had in the past, even though it was a slideshow shitfest for a lot of games, and it's no fault of the developers, it's just technology hadn't caught up by that time, right? Is those massive battles are a lot of fun. I mean,
they're fucking awesome.
You're in this brawl where you don't know what the fuck is happening, and you're like, having fun trying to coordinate, the strategy for hundreds of players all at the same time as a leader, or making sure that your group's doing the right thing. Those types of things are what make those experiences memorable.
Oh, I still remember shit like that happened to me 10 years ago. And so I can totally understand that. And speaking of scale, like what would be, I guess this is kind of like an odd question, what would we expect to see in terms of like large scale monsters? Like, are there going to be Krakens in the sea? I like sea monsters, right? So I've got to ask about this.
So another core tenet when it comes to the immersion of the world is that this is a grand lore game. And by grand, I mean that there were monolithic and megalithic civilizations that existed. The dungeons are tall and wide and expansive. I mean, we released a 4K video last month of about 2 hours of uninterrupted, unedited gameplay.
Yeah, I've seen
and
that.
At the end of that video, you can see, some of the dungeons that we're going through, and one of the lower bosses that is a pyroclastic dragon, essentially.
Yeah.
And they're massive. They're huge. I mean, there's one boss that is this kind of like half treant dude, and you're like the size of his toe.
Oh, jeez.
It's a lot of massive stuff.
What kind of seafaring content? I saw that there's going to be there's a profession for shipbuilding. So what do you get on your ship? So you sail out on your ship. What happens?
So ships are similar to caravans in the sense that there are components that can be built through the shipbuilding profession that enhance either the durability of the vessel or a caravan, the ability to move and change directions rapidly, the speed that it has, the hit points that it has, the offensive abilities.
So you can be a better
really
pirate.
The shipbuilding component. On the naval front, the idea there is that you will have the ability to acquire different types of blueprints for ship construction. Those class of vessels will exist from a personal vessel to a group vessel to a raid vessel, so large like galleon type ships. And there's a lot of content out on the ocean, not just from a raid boss standpoint. Like
galleons early weren't all that big. I mean, some of the largest galleons would fit inside of a football field. Like between the 100-yard lines. I mean, like they were like 300 feet were some of the biggest ones. So it'll be interesting to see how true to form that they work. So I'm pretty sure, galleons on average, we're not that big of a vessel actually. Oh, thank you very much for the follow.
Large monsters like Kraken related or more Lovecraftian type.
Yeah,
sorry if I butchered that. Thank you very much for the follow.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Exactly.
Welcome to the channel.
And there will be required some significant coordinated efforts on multiple raids to down some of those raid bosses.
Like a
but also
porcupine
there's
wolf?
going to be underwater dungeons and underwater kind of mounts that players can have as well. So you're going to be able to acquire these different ships that are going to be relevant to different experiences and different encounters.
Well, that's certainly that sounds fucking awesome.
Ask about
I'm just gonna
piracy.
say it sounds fucking awesome. Are there going to be islands out there in the sea that you can go and like
Yes.
kind of? Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So not only are there islands that exist out in the sea that have either dungeon content or
Look more like cats,
you
actually.
can place freeholds on if it falls under the purview of a coastal node, but also nodes that exist along the coast. Will change the spawn tables of the content out in the water as well, and those can attract specific events to that node.
Oh,
so the node will hook up to a point of interest.
Well, there is the mercantile type of node where, yeah, if you have a lot of money and stuff, you can become mayor. So there's definitely that. Oh, entries of. So yeah, you can have influence and stuff like that. I mean, it would make sense that if you have a lot of money, that you would probably have the ability to do additional things, perhaps. I wonder if there will be obviously the mayor can kind of do player initiated questing. I wonder if there's going to be another way of doing that. Like say you get a quest to go do X. Could you pay somebody else to do it for you, and then you would still get credit, right? So you would pay them money to do to collect the stuff that you want, and yeah, that'd be kind of interesting.
That is essentially its harbor, and that harbor will have specific quest lines that relate out to the out on the ocean and the islands that exist out there.
Okay, so it's like, for example, if you have like an oil rig, and then the oil rig pollutes the water, and then like the animals out there turn like more corrupted and more powerful, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
I mean, not so much the
not so much the pollution, but something similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Corruption is a primary theme within the world. The lore behind Ashes is that you're essentially coming back to a planet that was the home of your ancestors, and they were driven out during the apocalypse by essentially the primary antagonist, the ancients and the others that exist, these evil gods and the initial creation of the gods. They come to kind of defile and pervert all of creation, and they drive your ancestors off this planet to a planet through the divine gateways called Sanctus. And then after thousands of years, the portals open up again.
And that's where the races come from, is the different portals. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you...
Yeah. For the military-based one, it's basically a last man standing. So, and then whoever's the last man, they're the one that basically becomes mayor, which I think is kind of phenomenal in and of itself. I think that's kind of fun.
You buy is gear soulbound in the way that like once a character obtains it or equips it, they can't trade it to other people, or could you hypothetically buy a best in slot helmet or sword?
So the vast majority of gear that exists within the economy of Ashes of Creation is not soulbound, and the reason for that is because the crafting mechanics as well as the decay mechanics that exist require not only the deconstruction of gear, but also the constant resupply of base mats in order to repair that decay. It's not going to be some, bullshit, small gold compensation that makes a really irrelevant decay system.
On WoW.
It's actually going to reinvigorate the demand and supply of base materials for the gathering artisanship tree. And with that being the case, we want there to be this open economy that utilizes this regional transit system and warehouse system in order to supply certain areas with the ability to craft and create new items.
So, for example, if you have an iron sword and then the sword gets damaged from use, you have to use more iron to repair it?
Correct. And what that does is, remember the interdependencies that we were talking about on the crafting system? You want to make sure that there's significant sinks in the game for base mats and materials so that you are creating a scarcity and demand that's present on the creation of higher goods.
That's smart.
As well as supplying the necessary decay components for the world.
See, I really like that because how often, especially, again, World of Warcraft, man, you're out there collecting all these mats and they're useless, right? Like nobody needs them anymore because everybody's out leveled, whatever. I really like this, that even though you can maybe create something really nice and potentially epic, you still need to get out there and get the lower level materials to maintain what you're doing. Um, and I mean, that for a player economy, I think that's so important. And it also reduces the requirement for gold. Like, look at WoW. I mean, you get gold so easy now. It's ridiculous, right? They just throw it at you. And it's meaningless. It doesn't do anything. It's so devalued because there's so much of it. Where by doing this now, it's like, hey, dude, I see you're mining whatever material that is. Can I buy some from you? Okay, boom. And then now I have that, and now I go to somebody else and say, hey, dude, I have this mineral. Can you produce this for you? Can you smelt this for me? And I pay you, you smelt it, and then I get it back. And now I have the materials I need to craft and or repair my equipment. And I like that. That I mean that's more realistic, number one. Um, and it's a time sink. Not only is does it kind of take, it's a little bit of a money sink. It's a time sink because again, in WoW, all you do is go kill 10 of these, go collect 8 of that, go rescue so and so, wash, rinse, repeat. So this is like an unofficial quest, right? Your sword or whatever is its durability is declining. As its durability goes down, I'm going to guess it's probably its damage or its own stats will probably decrease. So maintaining your equipment is I think going to be fairly important. And so that's a time sink, right? Because now you don't have all the time in the world to just adventure. So you have to go into a town or you have to interact with these other people. I love it. That is, the more I hear about this game, the more I'm definitely going to play it. Uh, Whether or not I buy one of these pre-packages, I'm still yet to see. But I'm definitely sold on the game.
Okay, and so somebody that basically wants to play the game as a crafter or a gatherer can pretty much do that.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. So my philosophy when it comes to MMOs, the MMOs, I played a lot of MMOs, and they all in some way, shape, or form have their own take on certain systems, right? The best systems that I've encountered are the games that incorporate these progression paths that are relevant for different kinds of players. Not everybody is a PvPer, not everybody is a PvEer, not everybody is a crafter. But if you can create a system like Ashes of Creation, where there are interdependencies between those different groupings, those different demographics of players, you can harmonize the population that feed off of each other, that are essentially are dependent,
creating an ecosystem.
core. Absolutely right. And the best MMOs I've experienced are the ones that go
I would
for
agree
that
with that.
PvX experience.
I would
those
absolutely agree with
are the
that.
best MMOs that I've experienced. But that means that not everybody can be a winner, that there has to be a significant chase. There has to be people who are the masters of their craft or the best ranking on the PvP side.
Not only that, but one of the problems that you run into, and this happens with older MMOs, is, okay, so the game's been running for a year or two. How many players do you have max level? At the top of the tree and everything like that. And you get a new player that comes into the game. The starting zones are empty. There's nobody there. And you feel like you're playing a single player game for the first 10 or 20 levels, right? And with this system, you can get into the game brand new. You get early into the crafting where, you're developing your skill, and you're mining or you're producing all of these lower level materials that the higher level people just frankly just don't want to bother with, right? Like this just don't have the time. So you kind of get into that, you kind of get invited into that club, right? Because you're the lower level guy and you join a guild or something like that, and the guild's like, hey, you know what, dude? What are you doing? Great. If you keep supplying us with this stuff, we'll take care of you. And and now you're getting hand-me-down gear because soul binding isn't a thing. So now you're getting geared because you're doing the menial BS work that nobody else wants to do. And so as a new player to the game, you basically have a community to play with almost from the get-go. Whereas in a game like World of Warcraft, you don't have that. You're just kind of left to your own devices, right? Run into Ogrimmar, jump onto a mailbox, dance naked, beg for gold, right? That's that's your first that's how you make it big and wow, right now. Some guy will drop 10 gold on you and then he's like, oh, thank you very much, because you're probably a gnome and or a goblin, and then you run back to the starting area and that's how you gear yourself. You can buy all your initial trades and stuff like that. So yeah, exactly, it's almost a perfect ecosystem. It seems rather true to life is what this is, right? This just seems fairly legitimate. I'm going to have to wonder about the lore, though, because if it's been thousands of years and you had to run to a different planet, what was your technology like when you left in the first place? Because I'm not seeing a whole lot of technology here. But that's just nitpicking.
Legendary gear that means something. That it just can't be this type of super, just
like Call of
meaningless
Duty
experience.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, let's say, like, just in a hypothetical, I don't know if you've really like thought of it this much in terms of end game, but let's say you have a player that's just reached level 50, and then you have another player who has effectively like almost or the best gear in the game. What would you say is the power difference between those two players?
That's a very good question. So this is obviously a dilemma that a lot of games have to deal with. What I would say is the way we're building Ashes of Creation is there are three primary components when it comes to an encounter like that. First, from a balancing perspective, our balance is dealing with specifically group-based balance. We are not balancing off of 1v1s. We're balancing off of an 8-player group, synergizing between the different effects that are housed within different active skills based on the archetype that you've chosen, right? So that's the first component. The second, and that provides a rock, paper, scissor type dynamic that's intrinsic in the Trinity type system. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel on the Trinity side. We feel that's a very competent type system and it's relevant to different classes. So with that being the first component, the second one is that there should be something said for gear acquisition. Yes, there is going to be a discrepancy between the gear level of a hardcore player versus a casual player. And that's okay because there should be certain progression paths that reflect a benefit for more time spent in investing in that progression path. So with that being said, now,
and that's something that World of Warcraft doesn't do anymore. Now it's the casual person, thanks to Dungeon Finder, can get just as geared almost as quickly as it used to be when they had 40-man raids and you had to be in a guild to do it. In fact, I think you can gear faster with Dungeon Finder and WoW than you could in the old raid system of World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft really caters to the casual, and I think there does, like, as much as, like I said earlier, there should still be those rare instances where the casual person can get like a flying mount, right? In very rare, just luck of the draw, circumstances, because that's important. And a casual player could still get the best gear in the game in this game if they master the right stuff and stuff. They're going to have to still invest the time. It's going to take them longer to get there. But if you're a hardcore player, you're going to get to that best gear faster. And and I'm sorry to the casual player. And I'd probably be mid-range. I would probably be somewhat casual, depending on my work schedule, right? Right now, thanks to COVID, my work schedule is either, doing skip the dishes or, sitting here doing this kind of stuff and working on hobbies. So, this, my business was put out of business thanks to the COVID thing. So I got to wait for things to kind of get back to whatever normal is going to be here in the future. Yeah. Anyways, pay to win. Yeah, and WoW is, I think, I wouldn't say WoW is pay to win, but it's easy mode. It's what it is, catering to casuals, and for Blizzard, yeah, it's how they're making their money. And right now, because there isn't an MMO like this out right now, the hardcore RPGers, the hardcore people that want an MMO like this don't have anything like this. Yeah, I know it's an alpha, but I found it funny how this 4K video they released has a lot of people with the flying mount. Yeah, well, I think what it is it's showing off, right? This is bragging, and this is marketing, and this is good marketing. So what they want, they want you to see these mounts and stuff like that, and then of course you go into the game or you go into the forums. You're like, oh, how do I get one of these mounts? Oh, dude, they are like ultra rare, because it's an alpha build. Obviously, they need to test all the mechanics of the game, including the 3D mechanics. So you need people to have the flying mounts in the alpha so you can fly over terrain and make sure you're not having, world issues. Make sure that the flying mechanics work, making sure the animations work. So I think in beta, by the time it gets to beta, you're probably going to have your flying mounts kind of dialed down to the rarity that they're supposed to be. So, at least I would think so.
Not only are you going to acquire additional skill because you're more hands-on and tactile with the combat system because you're playing more often, but you're also going to acquire different gear levels. And that gear level can present, if I were to give just an off-the-hand percentage difference, I would say that we want gear to influence maybe at a max of like 40 to 50% of an overhead benefit. Now, the third component, however, and that's the most extreme discrepancies, right? Okay. The third component is going to be level and skill, right? Excuse me, level applies to the second component. The third one's going to be skill. The skill is going to be important because the way that the skills are essentially established is there's a lot of synergy effects that can occur based off status conditions that are applied. So, for example, just to give you an idea of the way the skill system works, there's three primary skill sections. There's passives, there's actives, and then there's combat skills. Combat reflects specifically your weapon skills. So if you're a rogue and you're using a dagger, and your dagger, you want to invest some skill points into that weapon group, you can start unlocking, proc effects that cause the target to bleed, that can cripple the target or hamstring the target. And the way your active skills interact with that is, let's say we don't have an auto attack feature, by the way. A weapon attack is an active combat attack. So you have to actively press that weapon attack to use it. And when you do make contact with the target,
ask about macros.
Skill points into that weapon, you can essentially cause a bleed to proc. If the bleed procs on the target, you're going to have a corresponding skill, like let's say backstab, that you can apply to deal X damage to the target, and it'll have a conditional modifier on that damage if you're behind the target, and it'll have a conditional modifier deal additional 50% damage if the target is under a bleed effect. So you want to synergize essentially your weapon proc conditions with your active skills so that you're timing your certain active skills appropriately with the status conditions that the target has taken. So with that, to answer your question long-windedly, apologize. Essentially, you're going to have not only the skill level, the investment that you put into it, the gear discrepancy between you and the target, but also the skills that you use to combat the character.
The amount of skills that you get, so you level up to 50. Is there any leveling system beyond 50? Are the skills the leveling system beyond 50, or how does that work? And are they finite or infinite?
So they are finite. We intend to have a lot of additional content creation for the game post-launch that will manifest both on a monthly, and a quarterly basis to kind of implement new features into the game and whatnot. Because a lot of the features that we actually have discussed, those are going to be present at launch, but we also have features that have been backlogged into post-launch feature sets. But with that being said, on the progression level, yes, you progress to 50, but the way that our skill system works is you choose one of the base 8 archetypes initially, and then you choose from that base archetype again at level 25. And the secondary archetype does not grant you additional skills, but it does give you access to what are called schools of augmentation. And there are 4 schools of augmentation per secondary archetype. So let's say you choose fighter initially as your primary archetype. You're going to have access to active skills that you can put your skill points into, and that'll get you, like, let's say, a rush ability. And the rush ability will allow you to charge X distance to a target. Upon reaching the target, deal X damage and some condition modifier, and that's the rush skill. If you take the secondary archetype of mage, that'll give you access to 4 different augmentation schools. One of which may be teleportation. The teleportation augmentation you can spec into, and when applied to the rush skill, will now, instead of charging the target over X distance, over X time, will instantly teleport you to the target. So upon reaching the target, you'll deal X damage to some condition modifier. If you had chosen the elemental school, you'll charge X distance to the target. Upon reaching the target, you might set the target ablaze or deal electrical damage that deals damage over time. So the idea is to house the active skills in the primary archetype, but change the skill effects as based on your secondary school, which kind of blurs the line between what role you take in the Holy Trinity.
Okay, so there's like going to be things like, for example, I saw that you had bards, and bards don't really do damage, they don't really heal, but they kind of do a bit of both and empower other people. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Right. Bards are a very strong support class. So
yes.
Bards are essentially going to be proximity-based buffs that become relevant and are timed according to essentially when the bard chooses to activate certain skills. These are going to augment.
I'm just looking at how much subs this guy is getting. Jeez.
The healing abilities. They're gonna be essentially a whole array of buffs.
He's made almost $50 just to stream alone,
and based on proximity to your party member.
Okay, well that's definitely good to hear. And is there going to be a class that's basically like a retribution paladin, like a Templar or a Crusader or something like that?
We have a Templar. The idea kind of behind, again, these augments.
Well, the ranks are based on Minecraft because I play a lot of RLcraft typically. Like I run an RLcraft server, slightly modified, and then I have a 1.16 server that I run sometimes, and so that's why it's all based on like dirt, gravel, stone, cobblestone, stone, and so depending on how long you're around, your rank goes up based on time that you spend in the channel. Yeah, no, I know he definitely does a lot of WoW. I was just saying he hasn't been logged out yet, and he's been sitting in there for an hour. He must be moving that we don't see under the screen somewhere. So, look at that. Aaliyah started a heist, and Aaliyah died, and looks like Trupa J. Yeah. Won. Oh, there you go. Congrats. You got a few more points. But I'm just watching it. Just is all of the little stuff. Yeah, he's all like $50. It's like, lucky SOB.
Is that you may be proficient in damage mitigation and tanking, right, or controlling the battlefield and drawing aggro. And as you choose a secondary class like the healing class, you may be able to augment your aggro power, your AoE aggro power, to also convert incoming damage into health for your character, or to grant a temporary shield to damage mitigate and take the damage from a nearby ally if you target them. These are the types of kind of augments that become available when the class systems are combined.
Okay, so they're kind of,
like
you
that.
have like your main class and then kind of like a subclass which modifies your main class abilities effectively?
Right. Through the augment system, yeah.
And so flying mounts apparently are extremely exclusive. There's only going to be 10 people with them on a server. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Hey, my phone is dying, so actually let me transfer you over to the car and hopefully it doesn't.
Okay.
How does this work?
It works. Yes, it works. You're good.
Okay. Sorry, if you want to run to the restroom.
Okay, all right. I'll be right back. Okay, give me a second.
Okay. I heard voice on. Who else is on here?
Oh, I'm nobody. Don't worry about me, man. I'm just here to hang out.
Oh, okay, nice. Are you playing WoW a lot?
Oh yeah, I love WoW. I've been playing WoW for like 15 years, man.
Holy smokes, that's a while.
Yeah, it's
Are you
too
playing
long.
on the-
This game
on the
sucks.
Classic server?
Classic is a yeah, Classic's it's a game we sometimes play, you know.
Yeah, I missed out on the WoW boat. I was really heavily into Lineage at the time, but
Honestly,
like,
man, you
working
probably
along
didn't miss
Sweden.
much.
One thing I really appreciated about WoW was the rating system. You know, those I thought that WoW did that super well.
Rating?
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah, their raid systems or their raid's been pretty good. I like their the art team in WoW's been doing like pretty fucking good for like 10 years, I would say. Right, chat?
Oh yeah. There's such talented developers over at
yeah, you can only do a
100%.
heist every 30 minutes.
Oh yeah.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. You there?
See, what you do is you save up your points till the end of the month, and then you come back on at the end of the month, 8 o'clock Mountain Time, which is what next Friday, week from Friday, and you enter into the raffle for one of two draws. So, well, actually, what I'm doing on the 29th, my points that I earn, which currently I'm at 4,000. I'm giving away. So somebody on the 30th is going to be able to enter in and win all of my points, and by then I'll probably have 10,000 or something like that. I need to talk more in chat, I guess. And then on the 31st, between 8 and I think I'm doing 7 to 8 Mountain Time, so it'll be 6 Pacific, 8 Eastern. For the first hour, you can enter into the $100 Amazon gift card draw, or if you're in Canada, you'll get. I can do an e-transfer. I can't do it out of country. And then the second hour, we're doing a $50 gift card draw, and unless I get a little bit more money, I might do a third bonus draw. I think right now it's like $158, and if I'm doing like 150, then if I have maybe 25, then I'll do that. So yeah, and that, like I said, that's based on 30% of all donations, bits, and subscriptions. And I had a guy who subscribed and donated $500, so 30% of that. And I'm letting it go the entire month before. I don't think he's going to do a chargeback. I've had some people say you got to watch out for that. And even if they do, it'll be a lesson learned, and I'm good for it. So, I'm committed to that. And he has, because when you donate, you get a bunch of emeralds too. So he has like 250,000 emeralds. So he could technically come in and try and win his money back. He said he wouldn't, so we'll see how that goes. He's in Germany, and he's been around before, but it's one of the people that when I do my screen, that's why he's got the POG donator status. If you see it on the intermission screen there. Anyways, continue. Sally forth.
Welcome back. Yeah.
Okay, so I was wondering about flying mounts. Like, are they really going to be as uncommon as people make them out to be?
Yeah. So, one of the things that, and going back to kind of that philosophy of earning legendary shit that is unique and is scarce. That's not just going to be with regards to like flying mounts. It's also going to be in regards to unique items that exist on the server where only one can exist at a time. But also, on the flying side, we have different tiers of mounts essentially, and the royal tier can only be accessed on a time basis for guild leaders who own a castle and mayors who are mayors of Metropolis stage, which is the last stage of no development.
Okay.
But additionally, players can also have an opportunity as a rare drop to get.
So as a mayor, you're mayor for 30 days, right? So for 30 days as a mayor, you get a flying mount. And then if you're elected mayor again, or you continue on having the mount, but if somebody kicks your ass or is more popular or whatever, then they get the mount because they become mayor, right? That's my understanding.
Get eggs from legendary bosses. And then that egg system has a quest path that relates
and you earn more points
to
in
the
your chat too.
processing profession of
So.
husband, where you can essentially raise that that mount to have a lifespan that ranges from 15 to 30 days based on how well you raise the mount. And then once you open the mount and use it for the first time, its lifetime starts ticking. So if you ever lose the castle or aren't mayor one season, or your mount dies, you lose access to that. So at any given time on a server, there's only ever going to be between, let's say, 10 and 20 people that will have access to the flying mount. And the castle siege mounts, the castle mounts and the node metropolis mounts, those are huge mounts. So these are very large dragons that have, significant battlefield abilities like laying down massive AOEs.
So this is like,
really? You can battle mount.
Game of Thrones.
So you can battle with your mount. You can have a Drake or whatever, and if you're under siege, you can take your mount and have yourselves a little southern barbecue. Nice.
Yeah, you see Danny flying in and just burning the shit out of King's Landing, and that's what's happening.
Okay, well, fuck yeah, that sounds awesome. So, do the normal mounts also have lifespans, or is it just the flying mounts?
No, just the royal mounts. So only royal mounts have lifespans. All other mounts, mounts can be separately targeted when you're on them. They can also follow you, so you can be dismounted and they can be summoned. And essentially, they can be targeted and killed. If they're killed, there's a cooldown time before they can be reridden.
Nice.
And there's also going to be certain types of potions that can restore life on a mount that's been killed, so you don't have to wait the cooldown time.
Can you re-ride the royal mounts too, or when they die, are they just permanently dead?
No, you can rewrite them as well,
Okay.
so long as you have the satisfying condition. And that condition's either being, the mayor, the guild leader, or the lifespan available.
Can other people ride on the mount with you, or are they all just one-person mounts?
So, in the guild system, there is going to be.
I definitely want to be mayor. I want to be mayor for life.
Only during guild sieges. Now, these won't, and you can assign them to officers. So you're going to have a limited selection that you can apply towards certain officers. They'll have the ability to fly those mounts as well. They're not going to be as large, and they won't have the same type of presence and abilities that the main mount has. There is going.
I want to go back and hear this again.
So you don't have to wait the cooldown time.
Can you re-ride the royal mounts too, or when they die, are they just permanently dead?
No, you can rewrite them as well.
Okay.
Well, guild castle,
condition, and that condition,
right? So yeah, guild leader of a guild castle.
The lifespan available.
Can other people ride on the mount with you, or are they all just one-person mounts?
So, in the guild system, there is going to be essentially royal mounts that are temporary only during guild sieges. Now, these won't, and you can assign them to officers. So you're going to have a limited selection that you can apply towards certain officers. They'll have the ability to fly those mounts as well. They're not going to be as large, and they won't have the same type of presence and abilities that the main mount has during the castle siege for the guild leader, but they are going to provide flying ability so that you can have oversight of the battlefield.
Nazgul.
That is cool. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Like that, basically?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, like a Nazgul, yeah. Like they're going to be they won't be the Witch King of Aknamar, but they will be like the little lesser...
Yeah, the Witch King is the guy with the royal mount, is that right?
Exactly.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
That is
cool.
cool.
Is there any way, so you have like the auction house, is there going to be any way to like buy currency in the game?
I think you set up
or
to
is it
20.
Going to be completely built inside of farming.
Oh, there he
gold.
goes.
So
Yeah,
like I
he
know
got
in
logged out
RuneScape,
there
for
or something.
example, you can
Or he's
effectively
going into a
buy
raid.
gold with like bonds, and in
That's
WoW
a
you
loading
can buy
screen.
gold with the WoW token, and there are other things in the game that are effectively like kind of pay to win features. Are you guys
absolutely
going to
not.
have
He's
anything
got
like
another.
absolutely
That's
not?
another dollar. $1.25. Another guy
No. Okay, that's
subscribed with
great.
Prime times 8, so it's another
So what I find is
$1.25.
when the company comes in and you have a player-driven economy, and they think it's a great idea to throw something, a wrench into that economy, and introduce something on a microtransaction market that upends the player-driven economy that people spend money. When you think about the way that the economy in Ashes of Creation works, essentially it's a traditional gold-based system. However, monsters don't drop gold per se. What they drop are certificates. And these certificates could be pelts. They, it's just a term we use. It could be pelts. They could be whatever that house the value of the monster's death. Okay, and you accrue these over time. And what happens is you go to a certain node, and based on the level of the node and the distance of that node from the location of the drop, will determine the value of the certificate. So, like I said, there's 5 primary economic regions. And in that scenario, there's 5 specific certificate types that are granted by the mobs that die in those regions. You can move those certificates through the caravan system. But if you get attacked and the caravan is destroyed, a portion of those certificates get sunk, and then another portion are granted through the wreckage that the caravan now supplies the attackers. So you have to be strategic. You can turn it in within the region you farm them. You'll get lesser gold for that.
So
but
supply
if you
and
want to
demand.
take the risk, you want to take some of those certificates across regions, you can do it through the caravan system, and it provides a significant sink but opportunity to the player. Again, that's an opt-in type system.
So, like for example, if you're out in like a winter area in like a northern mountain and you kill a Yeti, and then you take it all the way down to some southern area, it's probably worth a lot more money.
Exactly, it could be worth upward or 5 times what you would normally get.
Wow.
For trading it into a huntsman at a local node where you farmed it.
Okay, and that's kind of about, and you're balancing that basically with the idea that it's going to take players a while to go from point A to point B.
So there's 2 primary algorithms that are used when balancing.
So I'm wondering if you get in early with the alpha too, if you can learn a lot more about how the game works to better your chances at becoming a mayor. I would say so. Yeah, I would say 100%. I would imagine many of those mechanics would be in the game, be active within the game. And now, that being said, it being alpha, I mean, they may, through testing, discover that that doesn't quite work the way that they were intending it and tweak it. But then, yeah, you would, regardless, you would know what you needed to do to become mayor, right? Like you would know the most advantageous activity. So yeah, I mean, if you got into the beta, it'd be the same thing. In fact, the betas would probably be a more honest indicator of that. So I mean, like I said, I'm still kind of on the fence on whether or not I'd buy that thing. I mean, nobody's going to pick my name, so I don't think I really have to worry about that. But I think you would definitely be able to source, knowledge, right? Exactly. Like you'd be able to see, how does it work? You could experiment with it. Be like, for example, the merchant one. It's resources and money that you donate to the city, and you could figure out, are certain resources more valuable than others, so that you would know that lumber is more valuable than stone, right? Or whatever. So you would know that you want to have a lot more of that donated than anything else, right? So that would definitely help. Now, I'd also wonder if, because not only are you looking at each city, but each city is different, right? Because it's based on race. So different races might require different things as well. Hans says, I don't think being a mayor is that big of a deal. It's a prestige thing. I think it's bragging rights. I think that's what it is. It's bragging rights. And I imagine you probably get something in your account that would denote that you've been a mayor or something. It's a prestige thing. Um, I mean, being a mayor, I mean, the thing is, I think about being a mayor is you have to be very active because your town or whatever, right? It only grows or things only happen when you make it happen, right? You have to set a tax rate. You have to say what types of buildings get built and where they get built, I'm guessing. So it is a bit of micromanagement. And that's why there'll be good mayors, bad mayors, because I think part of your job as a mayor is also going to be figuring out the defenses, where your defenses are, how you want to defend, and stuff like that. So, yeah, as much as I think it's a prestige thing, I think it's probably be a fairly stressful position because, um, yeah, I mean, you have to look after that node for that entire month that you are mayor. And if you get attacked and if you didn't do a very good job as mayor, you lose the node, right? Like, and all of the people in your town, village, city, they're not going to be very happy with you. Um, so yeah, I mean, being mayor is not something that I think everybody's going to be suited for, or should be. I think definitely getting in the alphas and betas and being mayor to try it out, to test it out, wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. Um, yeah, it still could be that way. Okay, so let's go. If you want to be a mayor only for the privilege, you doom the node for that month, therefore ruin many players' experiences. Absolutely. And I wonder if you can tar and feather a mayor. Uh, Also makes me feel like the no-life players who have all the time to play will actually control most things. Um, Maybe, and perhaps that's something that they'll notice, and they might figure out a way to maybe balance that a little bit. Because yeah, well, here's the thing: if you don't like your mayor, you can always leave and go to a different node, right? I don't know. Now the problem with that, of course, is you've already contributed to that node and contributed to the person that ended up being the mayor. So it's a kind of a catch-22 in that regard. But yeah, the mayor does need to be on most times, and that's not a bad thing. Um, the problem I run into with the no-lifers is their ego is as big as the time played mark, right? Um, they tend to have a very negative perception of the casual player, which isn't necessarily fair. Um, so, as long as the mayor can't do anything, I guess that would take away from other people's experiences in a bad way, like a mayor refusing to build apartment buildings or something like that, right? Oh well, the apartment buildings are only for the casuals. Oh, har har. At the same time, you don't want someone who doesn't play much as mayor in the first place. I get what you're saying as well. It would be hard to make a balance, right? And I'm thinking like the mayor isn't mayoring all the time, right? Like I'm thinking you're probably making a decision or two every couple of days. Like you're probably saying, okay, we're going to build um, an apartment building in this quadrant, and my guess is that at that point players start contributing resources to create the building. And as the mayor, you're probably not doing more than one building at a time. So, and I'm going to guess it's probably going to take a day or two or a few days to build an apartment building. So I'm thinking that would balance out the person who's always on, because I mean, if I'm playing, if I'm one of those mid tier players, right? Like I'm not playing all the time, but at the same time, I'm still on for a couple hours every day, right? So a little bit more than a casual. I don't want my entire play session running around the city being the mayor, right? I want to be able to do a couple of things that I need to do and then go out and quest and level and do the things that I need to do to level my own stuff. The plan takes more than that. The plan's taking, yeah, exactly. So I think being mayor isn't going to be too crazy or too onerous. And I mean, my style of being mayor would be very democratic. I'd basically be like, okay, guys, what do you think we should do next? And trying to keep things relatively fair that way.
The return ratio on those certificates.
Okay.
First, the world server manager takes into account the existence of certificates in the normal population. So we have a tally of how many certificates are out there. Then we also have a heat period that takes into account. Boy, that doesn't sound good. A heat period. We also have a period of time where we take into account the number of trade-ins of specific types of those pelts within, let's say, a week or a month period of time.
Yeah.
And that also is a determining factor in the return that you can get from the huntsman.
So you have it's like an internal like supply demand or price demand algorithm?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
That's part of what we call our world manager. And the world manager takes into account a lot of different. It takes into account, the amount of experience that's being gained by players as a heat map on the world, so that we know what type of threat.
Yeah, and you can never have just one person running the entire show. That's why, you'd have lieutenants and stuff like that, and that's why other people would get, to assist with the command and whatnot. Naturally be a channel where the leaders of the node gather and make plans. Absolutely. I wonder if there'll be other government positions to say vote democratically on things like you said. And I mean, that may just be up to each mayor, right? You might have one guy that thinks he can do it all. And then you might have somebody like me that's going to delegate. Because it's great to be a guild leader or a guild master, but I mean, you still need the quartermaster. You still need the guy that's paying attention to, the guild stash and stuff like that. And yeah, exactly. Or, at least they should have the opportunity, right? If you're not there to vote, you missed it. And it's going to be just like regular society. Not everybody votes. You have the right to vote, but not everybody does. So you have to factor in that. And a lot of times, you have to make decisions that are for the benefit of the whole, but the few may not understand. I mean, you're always looking at longevity. You want the survival of your node. So, you might have to tax a little higher than maybe the people would like, because maybe the people aren't otherwise providing the resources that you need to create adequate defenses. So you have to supplement that with gold. So, but yeah, a lot of that I think is something that you just you figure out through gameplay, and yeah, I think there is a potential for learning more about it by actually playing. So I think, yeah, there's definitely going to be a benefit to participating in a beta. Absolutely.
Threshold states can be applied to different node advancement. We also take into account the transit of resources and goods from region to region, so that
if someone who got elected becomes a tyrant, there should be something to counter that before the node gets damaged. You could probably kill him over and over again. Is there a recall system of some kind? Is there a way to challenge the mayor? Or are you mayor for the month regardless of what happens? I mean, you're not guaranteed to get attacked either, right, every month, right? Like, I mean, you could have a node that stays up for months if it's, serving the greater community, right? Because like you said, you could have neighboring nodes become allies or vassals, right? They could become vassal states or something. So I'm thinking if you're building your node, well, and you're dealing with the association, the adjacent nodes, very well, and you're working with those groups of people, I don't see why you couldn't have a metropolis that lasts for a significant amount of time, right? Because you have every node around you would still be a village, right? They could still get to a village state. And say you have 4 or 5 or 6 nodes around yours, well, that's 6 villages. And all of the people that are in that village. So if somebody was to come in to attack you or attack your metropolis, you have all of those other states assisting you, and that's going to probably cap your 250 very, very quickly. And if the other people don't have those numbers, their siege will fail. And then, they have another 30 days or 50 days before they can attack you again. So there's diplomacy that you can definitely make use of. And that's where, regardless of who the mayor is, the guild, I guess, that is leading needs to really be effective. You're more than just a guild, I guess. You actually have to become like a local government of sorts.
That there can be specific quests that provide those types of rewards based off of
the first election of
how much has been
Drythorn.
turned in. So for example, part of what nodes can utilize to develop their treasury, which they then spend on the development of buildings or defenses, is essentially incentivizing players, raw iron, raw mithril, and then they get a reward, and that reward is based on the algorithm of how much has been turned in elsewhere to kind of drive those quest systems.
Okay.
Additionally, there's a lot of stuff that goes into the world manager system.
Okay, so that's all kind of like basically a throttling system so things don't get too far out of hand in any sort of way.
Right, not only
Yeah.
throttle, but it's also an incentive system. So, like, for example, if,
Okay, so I can see with what they're talking about here, right? They're talking about how there's a supply and demand, and how if you're in the mountains and you're mining minerals, and you sell those minerals in that node, you're not going to get as much money as if you, say, took those minerals to the desert where there are no mountains and sold them there. It kind of makes me wonder, is there going to be some kind of an API where somebody could create a website or a web map or an app or something that would be able to track on your server what your various prices are, if that makes sense. A game that hasn't even come out yet has more views than Anthem. Right? Okay, Hand says, okay, hear me out about this one. For me, I do not think the mayor has any real power besides making decisions for buildings and sieges. What concerns me are the players who will be powerful economically and can control the fate of the node, whether the citizens like it or not. True. Yeah, and like Monarch here says, you can just leave the node. That's when traders come out and communicate with other nodes, refuse to defend sieges, etc. True, and that is just life, as far as it goes. I think the other thing the mayor can do is set a tax rate. I seen a tax rate slider. The one thing I haven't done yet is gone to the forums, so I don't know if there is a breakdown of mayoral responsibilities and abilities. But yeah, it definitely seems like they can kind of choose where buildings go. But see, that's a strategic thing, right? Like, because if you're under siege and an apartment building gets destroyed, even if you win the siege, the apartment building stays destroyed. So how you build or where you build buildings, I think, is going to matter. There's going to be some strategic importance. And again, I'd like to think that the mayor, with part of the building system, is going to be laying out some sort of defenses. Building bigger, better, stronger gates, perhaps having guard/watchtowers, where you're going to put your siege equipment inside the cast or inside the city, because you don't want them too close to the wall, because you could have trouble firing over the wall. Not only that, but you have incoming artillery, and you don't want the incoming artillery to take out your artillery. So you have to, I think there are going to be some intricacies there. And yeah, I think, a Metropolis is going to be a group effort. I think it's going to be more than, I am mayor, do whatever I say, ha ha ha. I think it's very much going to be, I think, the mayor reflecting everything. And yeah, if you have a bad mayor, I don't think you're going to last very long. And that's where if you don't like the mayor or the people running the place, you just move to a different node. And then you have, you work with that node to build up its attack or whatever to siege the city that you don't like. and then hopefully the group of people that you're helping will be better leaders when their node gets the ability to become a metropolis. Yeah, if you're a bad mayor and you keep being mayor, people are going to leave, and then you'll be known as a bad mayor, and no one will come to live there, thus having no one to defend the siege. Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of this seems like it will naturally balance itself out. I think.
Iron is being used as a raw resource for specific crafting path. That might drive up the price of mithril or silver, right? And that will incentivize the market course correct a little bit. The idea is to provide soft incentives that help to alleviate the demand and also to prop up the supply that might not be present from the economic systems.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me too. So there's not going to be any sort of real money trading or anything like that.
Real money trading. So players can trade. There won't be allowed RMTs, I guess. Real money transactions, right? But you can trade the currency within the game for purchasing items or whatnot.
Okay.
We do have already built into the game. On the outset is essentially behavioral metrics. So in the game, as a player does normal things and they acquire normal gold, that's all good and well. But if there starts to be item IDs that appear on the player account that are out of the norm, like either a large amount of gold or significant legendary items,
like
what
thresholds.
That does in the back, exactly what it does in the back is flags the account for view so that we can take a look at where did this item come from? Is it coming from a known gold seller or a flag bot or whatever? And then we investigate. So we're going to be pretty hard on the ability for players to subvert the natural economy systems by RMTing or botting.
Okay.
Also, another important fact is that intrinsically over the past decade, what I've noticed in a lot of games, as MMOs go the play route, you see this serious influx of gold sellers, otters, and whatnot, and this is super problematic because there's no barrier of entry for those types of bad actors in the game. When you have a subscription-based model, what you do is you exchange the amount of gold sellers. Now, there's still going to be gold sellers. We're going to have to combat that, and that's part of the behavioral metric system. But being a subscription-based game alone automatically cuts out a significant population of the gold sellers that might be applicable to your game. It doesn't stop them, but it is a barrier.
Yeah, WoW has still got a ton of gold sellers.
Because they have to pay money, and then also because it takes so long to level, and the odds are you're probably going to be able to make a lot more gold whenever you're high level. The investment is much higher, and so if you're banning them at a higher rate than they're getting their return on investment, then they're not going to be. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what
And then one other thing that's super important is, in my experience as an MMO player, I really hate the fact that not a lot of companies invest in active GM teams, GMs who are present on the server
Yes.
day-to-day basis and are playing with the population and are there to actively enforce and moderate what can be a major nuisance from these gold sellers and or botters. So one of the pledges, in Ashes of Creation, and something that is a personal interest of mine, is making sure that the player base is active GM force that are present on the servers and are participating in the community.
No, that's
Okay,
good.
well, that's certainly a big relief. And there's one more game question I wanted to ask, is that what are stats on gear going to look like? Like, what kind of stats?
So,
yeah.
Because gear is not class dependent, you can have any type of gear you want, and gear is really the type of gear you want to have is based on the encounter you're facing. So, if you're going to be a tank, there's different types of tanks you can be. Sure, from a balancing standpoint, no game has ever achieved ultimate balance. There's always metas, and there's going to be, updates that try to address certain metas, but we don't want to destabilize the builds that people have built, so we have to be really cognizant of that. But what I would say is that, like, when you acquire gear is going to have multiple types of stat allocations that are dependent.
Oh yeah, draws over. Let's see who won. We got a few people in this one. And then Drick went. You know what, Drick? You've won enough. I'm picking a new one. Well, she won enough too. We're gonna let Hansa win. Because Drick, you've won a lot. We're gonna let Hans win this one. So we need more variety. There. Reset. That was me being a little tyrannical.
On the crafter to determine, and also there's going to be multiple types.
I want to see how this election, like on the screen here, it said, the first election of Drythorn will commence in 3 minutes. I want to kind of see what happens when that
of the gear happens. That you can acquire from drops from monsters or raid bosses or dungeons or quest lines, all of which have different types of relevancy to whatever your focus is. If you're a physical combat damage type focus, there's going to be stats that augment your strength and that affect your ability and the option to crit. Those types of things are going to be things that you'll have to make conscious decisions.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. So you're basically going to have like the usual, strength, agility, and then critical strike chance, probably hit chance and stuff like that.
Right. Yep.
Will you have resistances, like fire resistances?
Yeah. So essentially, players have the ability to augment their skills with certain types of damage or energy types, and in addition, you will have the ability to enchant and empower your equipment as well. And you can empower and enchant them as a give and take type relationship, where you may want to spec into a more specific fire type damage or radiant damage, and then players will have the option to enchant their armor as resistant against certain types. And what that does is it adds an additional layer of complexity and item customization, class customization, so that there's no just cookie cutter type experiences you have among all the different players that exist out there. Each person is going to have a very unique build in that regard, and you're going to want to make sure you know who players on the battlefield are when you're going up against them, or that you're synergizing with them if you form parties for PvE.
Okay, that makes sense. So, like, if you know you're going up against a node that's right next to a volcano, you can probably get gear with fire resistance on and do better than average.
Exactly. And those socketed enchantments can be exchanged out for as well. They're not permanent.
Okay,
nice.
Well, that makes sense. And also, the scale of the world is something that I'm kind of curious about. So how long would it take on foot, for example? I don't know if you can give me like a ballpark on this, to go from the top left of the map to the bottom right.
So on foot, that would take multiple hours. The idea behind the world size is, between 400 to put that into kind of context, I guess, what was the name of that game? Well, if you take a look at Lineage as a world, I believe Lineage was about 400 square kilometers, and it was a significant trek across them. The idea behind our travel systems, though, that as nodes develop, you can get faster travel, but fast travel is very difficult to attain. You'll have to see a metropolis of the scientific type, and then that can construct a building that offers player fast travel, teleportation, or airship travel to nodes that exist with under its vassal. A metropolis zone encompasses about 1/5 world size.
I didn't
Okay,
even see.
under
I
its
didn't
zone
even
of
notice the vote
So
there.
you'll have
Hang
fast
on, no,
travel
it's
under that
kinda...
scientific type, and then that can construct a building that offers.
Okay, so that's your vote right there. So there's 1, 2, 3. Looks like 4 people for the votes. It's the poll, and you select them and then vote. So that's it. It's just that easy. So I guess it's whoever qualifies gets automatically added, and so it's not everybody in the zone. Okay, so that's
fast travel, teleportation, or airship travel to nodes that exist with under its vassal. A metropolis zone encompasses about 1/5 world size. Okay, under its zone of influence. So you'll have fast travel under that scientific metropolis. But faster travel is things like commissioning a Thunderbird to take you, not the car, but
yeah, an actual Thunderbird.
An actual Thunderbird fly you down to a node or a different region quickly.
So you'll have flight paths.
Exactly, correct. They'll be on a spline route and they'll take you across the world. The idea there, the reason why this is important to me, because a lot of that I've played in the past, there is this Zerg mentality and mechanic where any given guild that's large instantly port to a location and just overwhelm the people. The no fast travel kind of, I think, curtails that a little bit. If you get wind of a man on the and your guild is like, oh man, we need to get there, and everybody's out in parts of the world, it should take some time to move to that location. You shouldn't just be able to instantly teleport your Zerg if you want to go and just overrun people. So that fast travel mitigator is kind of going to curtail that Zerg mentality.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm glad you agree with me.
I know that happens in like classic WoW. It happens in WoW a lot. Will players be able to summon to other locations? Like, let's say, yeah.
Yeah, so there's going to be a friendship mechanic that exists within the family system that will, so there's a limited number of family members that you can have, and essentially you'll be able to, on cooldown, summon certain family members. So the idea is that this is a longer cast time, and that you can slowly start to spawn your family members. Now, you can only ever be a member of one family. So it's important if you want to coordinate kind of constant party or PvE groups that you coordinate which families you're a part of so that you can summon out to different dungeons and whatnot.
Okay, so there is a way, but it's very limited.
Correct.
Okay, well, that makes sense. And a couple of questions is that when are we going to get the alpha? yeah.
So
yeah. Now the hard questions.
We announced the Alpha 1 is at the end of the it's going to be something right now that we're in the middle of actually testing. We have next month, we've invited about I think there's a little over 450 people that are our backers to participate in the preview of the Alpha 1 client. And then as we kind of go through testing the server infrastructure as well as bugs and base systems for the Alpha 1 that then we're going to start opening it up to about 10. We have about 10,000 people who are scheduled for Alpha 1. So the time frame for that is about the end of this year.
Wow. And 10,000 is about the size of one full server. Is that right?
Right. So our for a server between 8 to 10,000. Now in Alpha 1, we're going to be mitigating that server concurrency because the playable area is significantly smaller than what the whole world will be. So servers around 1,500 to 2,000 concurrency.
Yeah.
Because it's only about 20% of the world map that's playable.
And that's going to be happening at the end of the year.
Correct.
Wow. Okay. And is the game
So
isn't buy to play? You just pay a subscription and then you can play it?
Yeah. So one of the things for me as a player that's really important is I don't like companies that try to nickel and dime players by having all three folds of a buy to play.
It's gotta wait.
I think Blizzard DDoSed him whenever.
We have pre-order packages that are up, but honestly, you're not losing anything by not purchasing those packages because there's no pay-to-win component in them. They're just cosmetics. So I highly advise people who are skeptical or think I don't know if Ashes is going to be all it's hyped up to be. Wait until the game launches. You'll be able to see. We're not going to have an NDA on Alpha. Not going to have an NDA on Alpha 2. You'll be able to see people playing this game. You won't lose out on that experience. But as a part of a gift from me to the player base, I'm not going to charge a buy to play. There's not going to be a box price. It's going to be entirely just subscription based.
Well, that's certainly a relief. I know some games now they have you have to pay a subscription, you have to buy the game, sometimes buy expansions on top of that, and they have the microtransactions, and it seems like a bit much.
Yeah, my philosophy is if you build it, they will come, and a subscription is more than enough for a company that
it works
has
for the
a
brothels.
successful game under its belt to provide constant updates, content releases, and it really just creates a healthy dynamic between the player base and the developers providing new experiences for them. So it doesn't need to have a raking in on the buy to play front, a box price that you buy a $50 expansion, whatever. All the DLC and the expansions will be part of the subscription price. So
nice.
Right now that's at $15.99 a month that we're going to be doing when it launches.
So $16 US.
That's really important to me, and I'm funding the project myself, and we don't have this the desire to be transparent is a double-edged sword. On one end, you have to trust the player base to look at things with a objective and understand that making an MMO is hard as fuck. And making an MMO of our size, even harder. So, we want players to be a part of that because the good side of the sword is
they seem to last the longest.
Feedback. You get to give us input. You get to
EQ2.
get on our Discord server and chat with me and other developers and, tell us your experiences as an MMO player. What did you enjoy? What excites you? What are you liking about the experiences you've experienced in Ashes so far? That's all so meaningful to us as developers as we go through the iteration process from test period to test period and we continue building this game. Are all the animations going to be perfect during alpha? No, of course not. Is all the content going to be there? No, of course not. Is there still going to be a shit ton of polish that's needed on the game? Absolutely. That 4K video we put out last month, even though it looked good, it's nowhere near what it's going to look like when the game is near the polish phase and it's going to be actually ready for launch. So, what I would advise...
And it doesn't look too bad.
And by the way, I really appreciate you taking the time, even though I'm in the car, coming on here and chatting.
Likewise.
The opportunity just to tell people, look, this is a process, but our ultimate end goal to make a product of quality that we are proud of and that you are proud of. And that means not rushing to market, not launching early, taking our time and building the things that need to be built. If you guys like what you're hearing on the systems and mechanics side, you trust us, that's what's going to be built, and we're going to take the time necessary to make sure it's built right.
And that's I think something that's reassuring for a lot of people. I think that a lot of the vitriol and like emotionally based concerns that people have really
and this guy seems really friendly, right? Like I'm wondering if maybe I should come up with a stack of questions and maybe try and have him on. I don't have the viewer capital that Azmon has, but I do have some history and whatnot with online radio and interviewing people like Tony Valen Garcia and Brad McQuaid and Black of the Defiance staff back when Tryon Worlds was out, and Eric with Eric Wingman Peterson, and some of the guys from his crew back in the day as well. So I think I might see if I can't maybe come up with some questions. Maybe chat with the guy. I mean, do my stream some good, wouldn't it? Everything is hitting all the marks for me. Just wondering about the combat a bit, but otherwise it looks great and a great concept overall. And I agree. And like you said here as well, Slick, sub games tend to do best. I mean, look at World of Warcraft, EVE Online. I mean, they're two of the oldest games running right now, and they both have paid subscriptions. EverQuest 2 lasted forever. I think EverQuest 2 is still out there and running. A lot of the MMOs that lasted 10 years all had subscriptions. The free-to-plays, for the most part, don't really seem to have much legs. The longest free-to-play game I played was Defiance, and they have the Defiance 2050 out now, which is like a year or some old. And they shit canned Defiance 2013, right when it came out originally, and they got rid of the 2013 version, which I thought was superior to the 2050 version that they have. I mean, I'll have to get on the forums and stuff like that, and we'll see if people know me from any of those other games and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of aspects of this game that I think are really, really good. I can't think of too much that's negative, right? Like, there's a potential for abuse in any system and in any game. And it looks like this guy has put a lot of thought into all of those things. And he's trying to find solutions. And we don't see that from a lot of other games. I'm really appreciative of saying if you have doubts, wait until the game launches. Don't buy into alpha or beta. It's not required. Very rarely do any developers publicly say anything remotely close to that. Well, yeah, I mean, we're in the pre-order culture, right? I mean, everybody wants pre-order, pre-release, pre-beta, pre-whatever, and look at all the crap you get. I mean, I go back, look at Bethesda, Fallout 76, right? What kind of an abortion was that? And I mean, I hear it's gotten a little bit better. I haven't played Fallout 76 in a long time. But yeah, I mean, there's these pushes for all of these pre-launch things. And what I really like about this is you can try the game for $16. $16, you download the game, you play it for a month. If you don't like it, you're out. $16. When the average game is $80. Well, here in Canada, it's $80. So $79.99, is what you're going to play for a game here. So you're going to spend $80 on a game, and maybe you like it. Now, most MMOs, when they have a box price, they come out at like $50 or $60, and you sometimes get a month free, and then yeah, you're on the hook for a subscription after that. At least with this, yeah, Canadian, I'd be out $20. Well, you know what? $20 is nothing. That's effectively that's nothing. And to play a game for an entire month, I think that's a good kick of the tires. I think that's a really, really good kick of the tires. And because there's no NDA, he's not having any kind of NDA. Think about all of the gameplay you're going to get to witness. Think about all the different opinions that you're going to be able to see from all the different people, right? Angry Joe might have his review. I'm sure guys like Azmon are going to get alpha access. There's going to be other streamers that'll have alpha access. And so you'll be able to look at the streamers you trust. You'll be able to look at other streamers that you may not know very well, and get their opinion, and you will hopefully be able to create a very nice, well-rounded, informed decision on, do you want to part with $16? So I think that's big. Now, having a no NDA, like you said, that is a bit of a trap, because you're going to have people that are going to look at the game and say, oh, it's not very polished. Like, look at this dragon thing here, right? It's very bland. It's not a lot of detail. There's no color. It's boring. It looks like a stone gargoyle flying in the air. Uh, you're going to get people that are going to have that attitude. But like you just said, this is an alpha. It's not polished. I mean, I'm looking at the volcano in the background, and there's this little bit of lava right down here. That looks terrible, right? Like that, that just looks like it's just something smeared down the screen. It's paused, of course. There's probably a little more motion there. And there are some people that just don't get it, that don't understand. I've been around games and gaming for, 25 years. I've play tested and alphaed and betaed many games. Not in a way where I could say I'm a professional or anything like that, but I've gotten to play a lot of games, well before they were ready to come out, and I know what to expect, and I understand the limitations that exist from an alpha to a beta, and what each phase is all about. I mean, an alpha is about the foundation. It's about the framework. It's just making sure all your world tiles are fitting together, trying to alleviate the falling through the world forever incidents that may or may not happen. Testing the ceiling. If you have flying, I'm sure it's testing the ceiling of the world, right? Make sure that there's no tears in that, so you can't pop yourself outside of the game world and fly above it, right? Like Minecraft in the Nether, if you get on top of that bedrock on the roof and you can't find a way down, you're screwed, right? What do you do?
Them out of not being listened to or feeling like they're not heard. So having a more direct line with the community and everything is definitely something that I see developers doing. And whenever that happens, you might have people that disagree with the developers say, but they can at least respect that they're getting the communication.
Absolutely. That's 100% right. I mean, I like now that I'm seeing more developers participate in active conversation with the community. For me personally, over the past years of production, 5 years since I've undertaken the intrepid endeavor, my life is ashes of creation. I live, eat, breathe, wake up, and, don't get sleep over building this game like my fellow developers. We're doing it to make something Blink. That players that we love Blink. In this genre, that love the genre like us, have been asking for a long time.
You're not buying a beer with $1.
Having a company that respects the players and their input is, not something that's seen very often.
No.
And it's
See, in my channel, it'd be 100 points.
Other publishers and companies,
I do a 1-to-1
developers,
emeralds
that
for
there's
bits.
a right way to engage your audience and to know your not let design decisions get influenced by a board of suits. They're looking to make the bottom line, as opposed to creating something that respects what players want, and that gives you the longevity and retention that an MMORPG deserves.
Yeah, I completely agree with
Preaching
all
to
that.
the choir.
I feel like there's always been, especially now with these companies being public and making decisions for shareholders and not players. And I think this has happened a lot with mini games and many genres. I mean, you've seen it happen with Fallout. I think that was one. WoW's had its share of problems. And to have things that are kind of by players for players is something that, have you ever played Path of Exile?
Yeah,
look at the love that people have for that game.
Absolutely. That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you this.
It's a fun game. I haven't gotten too far into that one yet.
Skepticism out in the MMORPG community in a whole, not just about Ashes, but about any new development.
Yep.
And that's because we've been beaten time and time again with a stick, and we're like this hurt dog that is like, somebody comes up to you with a frickin' beef jerky biscuit, and they're like, here, have this new MMO, and they beat the shit out of you again. Yeah, and I understand that is reason why a lot of the jadedness and skepticism, comes out. It's understandable. What I would say, there's nothing more motivating,
that was a fast teleport,
especially on a project like Ashes, than to see the excitement from a community about the design philosophy and mechanics that we're instituting in the game. And if you have skepticism, just sit back and wait, watch, see what happens. Shitting on people it's not beneficial to making significant change in a genre we all love.
Yeah, I think that's one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of us, we just really want to play a good game. That's
Yep.
really what ultimately matters.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like I've always been kind of critical about WoW, and it's really
One of the things I want to point out here that I think is going to be unfortunate, and I'm going to call this now, because this is a game by an independent guy who's self-funding. There aren't suits involved. Very independent. Unfortunately, I think the games media journalism is going to shit all over this game. I think we're probably going to see bad press come out about this game, especially if anybody else, Amazon, comes out with a competing game or something of that nature, right? Like something, now Amazon's supposed to have a game come out in a couple of months. They're supposed to have some MMO or whatever. But, in a year or two, who else is going to develop? Who else is going to have a game coming out? I mean, Blizzard should have Diablo 4 coming out by then, I would suspect. So, like, what big gaming company is going to have a game come out when this thing is supposed to launch? And I would accept, I would expect that the game journos will crap all over this game so that whatever the big corporate game is will get more positive press. I was part of Gamergate before it was Gamergate because I was doing online radio. I was games journalism media back then, and when we would do our out of character talk shows, we would talk about what we thought of games that we were playing, other games, and give our honest opinions. And yeah, it wasn't, we were given the 10 out of 10s that PC Gamer was to a lot of these games. It just wasn't. And then Gamergate happened, and yeah, the crap hit the fan, and I'm still. A supporter of the true Gamergate, which is just asking that games journalists provide an honest an honest article, and if they were given incentives to review a game, that they give that disclosure, or if they've had a relationship with the developer of the game, uh, Five Guys and Fries, uh, you know that you say, hey, I was a roommate with this person, or we've been friends, or whatever. Like, have that proper and adequate disclosure so that we can make a decision on, do we think that your review of a particular title is unbiased, and kind of make our own decision. It's a shame that Sarkeesian had to get in there, and Brianna Wu had to get involved and make it about something that it never was. It was never about any of that stuff, and they false flagged up the wazoo. Let's see. Amazon got pushed back. Yeah, unfortunately, many games news sites get paid by developers for access and reviews. And LOL D4 coming out in 4 years. I don't give two shits about what other games try to enforce. I play what I like. Exactly. So, but my worry is independent people. It's like being an independent thought in politics. If you don't follow one of two party lines, then you become the other. You become the enemy. And in games journalism is kind of the same thing. So what this guy is attempting to achieve is 100% independent. If there aren't articles out already that have tried to attack this project, I fully expect that there will be, and that'll be very unfortunate because this fella sounds very credible. He definitely sounds like he's talking from the right perspective, right? He's talking as a gamer to gamers. He's definitely talking a lot about the previous experiences we have all likely shared in various other MMOs. And he's basically trying to do what World of Warcraft has done, right? World of Warcraft has taken all of the best aspects of every MMO that's tried to come out to compete against it and made it its own, taking the wind out of their sails. Well, he's kind of doing the same thing, except he's taking all of the things that WoW isn't and can't do, because WoW could not institute half of the stuff um, that they're doing with Ashes without completely reprogramming the game. That's brilliant, because he's not trying to compete against World of Warcraft. He's creating a completely different game from World of Warcraft. Smart, 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 brilliant. And he's so different that I don't think there's much in this game WoW could steal and try and make their own. Um, I really don't think. I mean, there's a couple of things, but at the end of the day, this is a very unique game from what we've seen, which I think is awesome. And it solves so many, or it's trying to solve so many of the issues that we have with games like World of Warcraft. And it brings back, by the look and the sound of it, it brings back the strategy of an MMO. It brings back um, the difficulty, right? Like this, it sounds like this is a game that is going to require a little bit of thought. It's not going to hold your hand, and it's going to be a time sink, and that's good. But it's not going to come. It's not clearly going to be a money sink. I mean, this guy's hitting all the strokes. I would say, as far as MMOs go, this is as close to a hole in one as I have seen in years. There was one MMO, I can't remember what it was called. It was years ago. It got canceled, but it was trying to do something similar to this. I mean, you look at Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen. Brad McQuaid's last go at game dev before he died. That was supposed to be taking you back to the classic hardcore RPG, right? He wanted to go back to the EverQuest and stuff like that, going back to where the game was a grind. And I don't think we need to go quite that far back. But I think for a lot of us, maybe more mature, older gamers, I don't know how old you guys are out there. I don't really care. It's none of my business. I mean, not that I want to be rude. It's none of my business. But I'm going to imagine that you guys are probably, for the most part, I'm going to guess, probably 30s or higher, on average. I'm going to probably say low to mid 30s is probably the average age of a lot of people that are going to be really interested in this game, because WoW, it feels like that's the 12 to 22-year-old crowd, and it's just the people that just don't really want to put a lot of effort into anything, and they want everything just given to them. And I'm definitely part of that generation that I still appreciate earning a little bit of something. Anyways, let's wrap this
we get
one
to
up
see
here.
what this game is shaping up into. And I think one thing that really, I think I can speak for at least a lot of people in my audience, that is reassuring, is that it seems like a lot of the ideals and the philosophy that you guys are taking into the game is something that's shared by a lot of players and not as many developers. And I think that's probably one of the most refreshing things to hear.
Yep.
And 28's pretty close to 30.
Yeah.
We're excited.
Well, yeah, we are too, especially now more than ever. So thanks a lot for coming on and talking about all this. It really means a lot to us. And for our community, thank you very much. And we are very anxiously waiting to be able to play the alpha.
Thank you. Appreciate that, buddy. I'll hook you up with that alpha. I know you messaged me.
All right, man. All right.
And
thank you very much.
Thank you to your community. Thanks for the time, but appreciate it. Have a good day.
All right. Talk to you later, man. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah.
Dude.
So what do you think? What do you think?
Dude.
Yeah, what?
Listen. If this game comes out with everything that's been promised and it's polished, WoW's done.
No.
I don't
would
think WoW's
disagree.
gonna be done. I'm gonna be honest. Like, this game's never gonna die. Like, but it'll be a good game to play too. Like, I would love to have another game that we could play. So I'll be honest. I hope, guys, that I did a good job with the interview. Okay. I really do. Obviously, I tried to do my best, asking the questions that I thought were relevant. There were tons of things that you guys wanted to have me ask. I didn't have what do you call it? I didn't have a ton of questions I took from you guys, but I do want to say thank you all very much for watching that, and also for being supportive. I did a great job. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. I did. And No Man's Sky 2.0. Well, the difference between No Man's Sky and this is that we actually have a play test for it. And also, the other big difference between No Man's Sky
building
and this
it went up pretty quick.
is this is being self-funded, so there isn't pressure from like publishers. There isn't pressure from Microsoft, for example, to push a product. So it's not really the same thing. Now, obviously, I mean, there are games that could be, this game could be in development for the next 5 years. We don't really know. Hopefully that's not going to be the case. But if that's what it takes, then that's what matters. This has been something that we've been waiting to hear for a long time. As MMO players, or at least I can speak for myself, I've wanted to hear what Steven had to say for a long time. It didn't really matter who was saying it, but he was saying it. And this has been something that we've been looking forward to and wanting to see forever. I mean, I feel like we've been neglected. We've been...
Dude, his analogy about us being, like, MMO players being fucking
the
dogs that just getting the shit beat out of us, like that, dude.
Come here, here's Aeon. Boom. Fuck you.
That was so spot on.
Yeah.
It actually hurt a little bit.
I know, it really did. It was kind of sad, wasn't it? Are you backing a Kickstarter? Yeah, I'll back the Kickstarter. I will. I absolutely will. I think that it's a good option, and I always talk about supporting things, and
unless he
that
has
kind
another
of stuff,
Kickstarter,
and I think
there's
that's
only
the
one
best
that I'm aware
idea
of.
is to lead by example.
Okay, so that's the end of that puppy. Yeah.
Blizzard sent me a T-shirt.
Oh, shut up. So we're done. We're done talking with you. Let's go back to where we were before.
What do you think?
Stop hacking. I heard he said something he didn't talk about with Azmon. Yeah, I'll have to find that. I don't think I'm going to look at it tonight, just because I've been streaming for 6 hours doing this. So like, yeah, because this is an hour and a half, and then the other video was how long, and we've done some chat, and a lot of chat, which is actually really good. But yeah, I mean, yeah, if they were to do another Kickstarter, I would probably jump on that myself. If they were to do a second one. It's been bouncing back. It shouldn't be. But yeah, no, like I'm pretty sold on this. Like 100%. I will play this game. I will drop at least a month subscription on it to try it out. I'm very tempted to get one of the packages. Very, very tempted. I don't know if I'd get this one. Like I said, with exchange rate, the 375 is $500. So don't know if I'd go that far. This one would basically give me everything else I'd really want for $250, which would probably be over $300 for me. So I'll have to think about it. These probably aren't going anywhere right now anyway, so I'd say I still have a few months to sit on this. I mean, I just heard and found out about this game today, this afternoon, so I am definitely very, very interested in this game. I'm going to do some reading up in the lore. I'm in their Discord server already. It's an alpha 1 now, so they're doing 2 alpha phases and then 2 beta phases. It's currently in alpha 1, and by the sounds of it, that's going to go until at least the end of the year, or at least towards winter. And yeah, I think I will probably try and get in for a beta for sure. because I think the beta is a really good way of testing some mechanics and the balance and stuff like that, the combat system. Um, I would definitely either create or join a guild as well prior to launch and try and be part of that organization, because I think being in a guild is um, is going to be very important, especially in the early game. I think getting that early start in the early game is going to be absolutely vital to your early game success. I would say if you don't get in on day one, get in on day 90, right? Like get in 3 months after, because after 3 months, I think you're going to have the majority of your players that got in on day one, nearing max level or at max level, and they would have moved off to different nodes. Um, it will be released in late 2020. Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't think this game's coming out in 2020. But I mean, that I could be wrong. Yeah, but I'm going to say my guess. Yeah, well, you can't always trust a wiki. My guess is November 2021 would be my guess, or for Alpha 2, yeah, maybe Alpha 2 would be uh, this year. Yeah, that I would agree with. Yeah, I think they would probably start Alpha 2 um, I would say probably December-ish, because it says Alpha 1 the fall. Well, I mean, the fall ends in November. So November, winter starts with December 21st. So technically winter. But I would say, yeah, they should. I would think if everything goes well with the Alpha 1 testing, I would say Alpha 2 should start near the end of the year. Like I said, I would probably say November, December. And then I would say Alpha 2 will probably run till, say, March, April. And then they'd probably take a month or two to finish the polish. Beta 1 would probably be June, July. Beta 2 would be probably um, October or August, September, October, and then they would release in November, because November is your prime pre-Christmas date. So that's why I'm saying late August, early November would probably be what you'd be. I would say that the latest. Um, I want to ride a river otter, right? Exactly. They are adorable. That's to get the women in. That's to get the women in. Yeah, 100%. They are cute as hell, man. They are cute. um, but I mean, here's the thing though, because there's no box release. I mean, he can release at any time because there's no box release, so there's no initial out of pocket expense, right? Like it really comes down to, can you walk into a Costco or a Walmart and buy the game time card off the shelf? I think that's really what this I think comes down to. So, I mean, it could be any time next year. I would say late summer, early fall would be most likely. Most likely there. They aren't selling them anymore in the shop. Oh, game time cards? Or I better be able to get it in game. Yeah, right? Yeah. Well, I think those otters, that's going to bring the women in, because they're adorably cute, and I think absolutely that's going to bring the girls into the game. So yeah, so if you guys aren't already in their Discord, Ashes of Creation is their Discord. So I'm going to read all their rules and stuff like that. Lots of moderators, 8,000 members. So that's pretty impressive. and you got people that want to make sure they're at the top of the list. And questions, general questions, AOC discussion, recruitment, guild chat, community media, French. They have a French crowd. Yeah, they have a German crowd. They have cis ashes. Is that like supposed to be like the cisgender community? I don't know. I don't know what's up with that. English. Okay, so you're probably going to have to activate something before you get access to the chats. Russian. Maybe that's what the cis thing is Russian. But yeah, I'm going to be checking out their deal in there as well. So yeah, so I first heard about this game. I seen this today. So this is yesterday because it's 12:05 now. So yeah, so 10:30 in the morning, and I was working when that happened. So I didn't actually see this until like 1:30, 2 o'clock. So so that's when I saw that. And yeah, if you want to join my Discord, just scroll down. There's a Discord button if you want to join. And thank you to everybody who's followed the stream. I am probably going to call it a night here because it is midnight, and I do have to work tomorrow morning for a few hours. And I've been streaming for 6 hours and 15 minutes, so it's been quite a long time. My guild leader is a male and wants to be a summoner and summon river otters to kill while he rides a river otter. Yeah, that's okay, yeah, for European. Yeah, that's kind of funny. Well, I mean, he's gonna have to fight against the people and the dragons there. So yeah, so I'm gonna wrap things up here. I want to thank you guys so very much for hanging out with me. I am back Altar. Usually I'm playing. Lately, it's been a lot of Red Dead Redemption Online, Red Dead Redemption 2. But I do play RL Craft and Apex Legends if I can find the people to play. I'm terrible at it, but I do have it. I kind of play a variety of games, and yeah, I'll probably do another one of these maybe tomorrow, where I'll find the other interview and maybe we'll do some more talk, read some of the forums or something, because this seems to be pretty popular, and I want to learn more about this game, and it's clear a lot of people want to get more information about it as well, and I'm excited, and it excites me to see so many other people like yourselves excited. So that is awesome. And thank you very much for the follow, Slick Pops. And as I do at the end of all of my streams, I do want to thank all of my subscribers: Grab Games, Random Runes, Ornithosophalus, Core Code, Donald Brown, and Vroomsta, who is my POG donator of the month. And yeah, keep hanging out, keep earning those points. There is a chance to win some $100 Amazon gift card at the end of it. It's $100 Canadian. Sorry, for you Americans, it's going to be $60 or whatever, or European Union, it's going to be even less, I guess. And so there'll be a $100 draw at the end of the month, as well as a $50 draw. And so keep earning those emeralds, those points, towards the raffle tickets. They are 500 emeralds each, and I do tend to give away the points all the time. So we got 13 minutes left on this draw. Nope, we're going to do it right now. And so Hans is going to win the next 500 points. He won 1,000 points today. So there you go. And when I'm streaming, I try to give away 500 roughly every hour. So I get you up to 17. So you're doing pretty good. So that would technically get you 3 entries. And then as you're chatting, you earn points and stuff. You just sub, you get more points and all that stuff. But yeah, so thank you guys so very much. Have yourselves a wonderful evening. We will see you guys hopefully tomorrow, when we will hopefully watch some more videos on this and have some more discussions. So we'll see you then. Ciao for now.